Burn alive. It's gonna be embarrassing as fuck.
I think Jake, some of his antics, I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's a mental warfare because you got to recognize how much experience I have. I got to keep reminding myself he's a child, that, you know, he's doing things that somebody his age should be doing.
I think with every fight, my confidence grows and grows and grows. Beating Ben Askren, I was just like, damn, like I can really punch someone.
Jake is nervous about this fight. You know, he's nervous in the face-offs. He's saying, I see fear, and you haven't had enough face-offs to see fear. I've looked at somebody and I've seen fear, and I knew it was going to be over with in the first round. You can't say in 2.5 fights that you've done that.
I'm naturally talented, gifted, naturally athletic, naturally powerful. I'm also just a really fucking hard worker, and I show up every single day, do every single thing right. That's what has made me a real sharp fighter. If we have to go 8 hard rounds, I'm ready.
In the epic words of LeBron James, Cleveland, this is for you. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. That's Brian Campbell. We are here at the Paul versus Woodley Open Workouts for Media Day, really, a live stream for it all, here in downtown Cleveland. Right, BC?
Just days out from the fight. Sunday night, this Sunday night, August 29th, only on Showtime pay-per-view, 8 p.m. Eastern, when the unbeaten Jake Paul takes on a very formidable opponent and former UFC welterweight champion making his pro boxing debut, Tyron Woodley. You're going to hear from the fighters. We're going to watch them work out. We're going to entertain with song and dance, maybe meet a few locals. You never know. They might invade the set. You never know.
And we're going to sweat until we collapse in heat. And
this isn't quite the Versace mansion where we were garishly wet under those robes.
We're also across the street from the bus depot, so the vagrants and everyone else behind us, I can't speak for them, but we will have a lot of fun. And as BC indicated, the fighters will come through, including Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, along with the cast of other characters as well. Now, as he mentioned, the pay-per-view will be Sunday, the 29th, live on Showtime pay-per-view. You can go to show.com/pay-per-view to order if you want. And if you're in the area, you can go to the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for tickets. They are still available, as I understand it. Remember, pay-per-view's on Sunday night, BC. Not on Saturday.
I want to start right there. Special night Sunday, special time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5-fight main card. But a special event under this flag, if you will, the past 2 years or maybe even more of special attraction boxing, celebrity boxing, crossover boxing. I'd easily go as far as saying the fight we expect we're going to see Sunday night, Paul Woodley, the most exciting on paper, the most expectations for action, maybe the best matched bout we've had up to this point for people who didn't make their bones or their celebrity initially in boxing, but as we're going to see Sunday night, they want to take it very, very seriously.
Yeah, we've discussed this before. There is a big difference between Jake Paul and Logan Paul. We were there in Miami for the Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather exhibition. A couple reminders here. Number one, this is not an exhibition. This is a pro boxing contest, which means we're not using any kind of strange rule set. It's only going to be 8 rounds, so it's not going to be a 10 or a 12-round bout, but still, the gloves are going to be normal. The knockdown rules are going to be normal. The referees are going to be normal. Everything about this will be like a pro boxing contest. Also, BC, to the point you've been raising previously, there's a certain level of grandeur that Jake Paul is seeking in terms of credibility inside the boxing ring that, to me, I don't think Logan Paul is exactly as dead set on. I'll just say this. Going up against Mayweather, it was kind of like how well can you do in a losing effort. Here, if you look at the odds makers, I showed you this on the plane ride today, Jake Paul is the odds-on favorite to win, according to several bookies. It does matter that we know the differences.
I mean, the best thing you can say, and really the staying point why I think people are so interested in this fight, separate from the personality, separate from the boxing and the MMA crossover into it, is just that either fighter can win, and they're probably going to win by knockout, and you'll probably be very entertained in doing that. And here's why I think it's important for this genre at the moment, this balloon, this bubble. I think we'd all agree Jake Paul is the face of this bubble. And this bubble includes, Mike Tyson coming back out of retirement for exhibitions. Any type of, Anderson Silva's in the game. Oscar De La Hoya is making a comeback. The Paul brothers, and beyond that. I think Jake is the face of it because out of everybody, he's taking it the most serious from the standpoint of, I'm not just here for the money. I'm not just here for the attention or the challenge. I really want to get the respect in the boxing game and show you guys that, I'm of you. I'm of your ilk. That's a big hill to climb, that critical hill. But he's starting to go in the direction of the right opponents who can maybe help him earn that cred.
He started on the outside taking on fellow YouTubers who just wanted to do what he was doing. And then he kind of graduated with the Ben Askren fight to a real fighter, but a guy who was well known, did not really have power, was not much of a striker, and was a very, very, very dominant wrestler in his time, but also was a little bit way past his prime. He had a hip replacement since he had retired. This is the first time in the natural escalation, if you ask me, where he's taken on someone, yes, Tyron Woodley, 4 losses before he bounced from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Although the Luque fight, he did rock him there before ultimately he got submitted. Still, one thing you can say about Tyron Woodley is he's a real athlete. He's a decorated UFC champion. And whatever state he's currently in, he still probably has big power. Power is always the last thing to go. In terms of the threats that Jake Paul has previously faced, Tyron Woodley is a clear and unequivocal escalation in a much more challenging way.
I mean, you got into a little bit of a war of words on Twitter with Anise and Gibb because I think you called him a diabetic gas station attendant.
I didn't know who he was.
But look, you're not lying when you say the improvement. It's not that, we curse Jake for this. I don't think Jake knows how good he can be because you got to have that craziness, that heart, that hunger to do this when you have that much money. But I think Jake's finding out along with us to a certain degree just how real is he in this space. And I think it's your performance that can win over, and you just can't get that credibility against a Nate Robinson, against an Anise and Gibb. These are fights that he took to claw out and start. But anytime you want to talk down on that, I mean, look at how many people, when they make their pro debut, fight other guys making their pro debut. Sometimes most of your favorite boxers, their first 8, 10, 15 fights were against absolute nobodies where you had to learn certain things along the way. So from that standpoint, 4th pro fight, this is Jake Paul taking a step, matchmaking-wise, in a very good direction. This is a fight he can lose, and the betting odds show you that. And I think it's also a fight where, even in a victory, he can learn a lot about himself and show us a lot about himself. And it all comes down, I think, when you handicap it, which we'll be doing all week on Morning Combat on Showtime's digital platforms. We don't know a lot about both of them, really, to be honest. Jake Paul's 3-0 is 4 rounds of fighting. A couple of those against really overmatched opposition. We're going to learn a lot about that swagger and that knockout power and that jab that we've seen in very short pockets and see, does he have the backbone, does he have the gas tank, all that. But I want to land specifically on Woodley because you and I have followed his career
for a long time.
Strikeforce in the UFC. He was a collegiate wrestling All-American. How would you describe to the average boxing fan what kind of hands does Tyron Woodley have that could be applicable for Sunday night's fight?
Yeah, Tyron Woodley's going to be an interesting guy. He does have knockouts, like, for example, the Jay Huron knockout or even the Josh Koscheck knockout, which were one-hitter quitters, basically, especially the Koscheck one. And even in the case of Darren Till, who he submitted, he knocked him down with a pull-2 counter, which just shows you he can read punches, he can read setups, and he has incredible athletic delivery. What is interesting to me is less about the question, does Tyron Woodley have big power? There's not much of a debate about what you can say there. The answer is yes. What is interesting is that his boxing was formidable in terms of power punching, but it usually was a setup either from or a conduit to his wrestling.
Yes.
And more to the point, this is the big one that I have not seen anybody talk about yet. I don't know what Tyron Woodley's going to do. And in fact, anybody who says they know how this is going to go down, they're just lying to you. They don't. There's a strong degree, which you hinted of unpredictability. But one thing that Tyron Woodley is simply known for, BC, back me up on this. When the fights start in MMA, he is not the guy to walk forward on another guy and try to barrel down on them. In fact, he is famous for backing up, which is going to be interesting because what is Jake Paul? You think that would fit right into his skill set, and it might, but I'm looking forward to that. What is he going to do in a different shape? But by the way, that ring in the octagon shape, it matters how you cut angles, and if you're backing up and you get cut in that, stuck in that ring corner against a guy who's all too happy to march down on you, could be bad. Could be bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be a big part of what this fight looks like. Woodley's adjustment, we know he's a professional athlete, a professional combat sports athlete, so you're not going to have him a huge amount of fear. You're going to have the toughness. You're going to have all of those qualities. He's been more of a headhunter in MMA because that was the counter-punching spot. I think that served him well, as champion and winning the championship, of course, against Robbie Lawler at UFC 201. It took him a while in his MMA career to develop those hands. I don't think they're perfectly applicable for boxing. He never had a big jam out of the MMA side. He was more into looping punches than straight ones, and of course, in boxing, there's not going to be the threat of the takedown, obviously, or kicking to offset that. But I think in his favor is, despite his age, he was really elite not that long ago. This 4-fight losing streak that led to Tyron Woodley's exit from the UFC upon the end of his contract, it wasn't so much that we're kicking this guy out the door, which the sport has had to have done to many legends who want to hang on too long. This wasn't Chuck Liddell's ending to his career, where it's just one knockout loss, where the fighting spirit's there, but the body can't function out that anymore. You would agree with me. At least the first 3 of Tyron Woodley's 4 UFC losses to end it, it was more like, does he still want to be there? It was more like, can he pull the trigger? I don't think those are things necessarily that can hold him back in this transition. There was a mental hurdle. He went in there against Vicente Luque and let it all hang out, and he had moments, and he got stopped. But I don't think you're facing a guy who can't make that transition into boxing and figure something out. And Luke, you're working with the right people when you're Tyron Woodley, and you're doing a little camp with Floyd Mayweather, getting his advice, and you've got Pedro Diaz in Miami, the Cuban trainer.
By the way, Pedro Diaz, it should be known, not just a Cuban trainer, a guy who has spent a lot of time working with MMA fighters. You have a lot of boxing trainers who've actually never worked with MMA fighters, don't know their strong points, don't know their weak points, don't know their different points. Pedro Diaz does. But to your point, BC, to answer your question, this is what I always say to people, you can like Conor McGregor, you can hate Conor McGregor, but he lost to Khabib and Dustin Poirier twice in his last 3 fights, Floyd Mayweather in boxing. Guys, he hasn't lost to chumps. You can say the exact same thing about Tyron Woodley. Dude, Tyron Woodley did not lose to bad fighters. In fact, he lost to the most elite ones in the welterweight division, which is one of the more premier divisions in all of mixed martial arts, certainly in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Now, he did lose those fights, and in fact, what I would argue is it was a certain listlessness that he showed in a few of them. He did show a lot of fight in the Vicente Luque fight, rocking him before ultimately losing and getting submitted, but he definitely had a much more competitive fire in that contest.
Absolutely, and Woodley's going to have to overcome the natural sort of, let's say, 20-pound weight difference between them in terms of
height difference, too.
And we'll get into all that as we break it down, but as we mentioned, this live workout, public workout, downtown Cleveland here, fans walk up right to the fence, get a good look. You got unbeaten junior middleweight prospect Charles Conwell in the ring right now, a 2016 Olympian, lost in the opening round, but certainly has...
If you're from Cleveland, are you a Clevelander?
Yeah, you represent the land. You're a Clevelander. I believe there's something to that.
Yeah.
Raised in Cleveland, from Cleveland, trains right now out of Toledo nearby. You're talking about one of the better kept secrets in boxing, a guy who hasn't had his big moment yet in terms of this is the guy that's going from prospect to legitimate title contender, but he's shown us the skills that he's of that ilk at the very least. So it's been fun watching him grow and climb the ladder there.
Yeah, also you can see these scenes of what I think I just got here. So I think this is downtown Cleveland. A little bit fortuitous that the rain has stopped.
Notice I already announced this as we're in downtown Cleveland.
Yeah,
I knew better.
I know,
map,
but I've not looked at the geography, nor have I fact-checked your claims. Nevertheless, you can see the sights here. But the rain stopped, and so we have this opportunity now, and as you indicated, a local guy, an Olympian, who's got a big moment here. Pivoting back, if we can, BC, to the main event, Woodley and Paul. Let me ask you a question. This is something I've been wrestling with. I was on vacation the last 2 weeks, but it's something I was thinking about the entire time. Quantify for me, in real terms, what does a win? Let's say no controversy. It was it didn't have to be dominant per se, but there's no doubt about the victor. What does a win over Tyron Woodley actually signify? I know what it gets. Right? It will set up a fight. We'll talk about this later with Tommy Fury. It will get him a lot of press. It will get him a lot of money. It will get him another fight or blah, blah, blah. But in terms of the credibility of the craft, what does it prove?
Well, yeah, credibility is the key there. Obviously, commercially as well, you don't want to overlook that. If he's the face of this bubble, him winning is a huge part of that bubble moving on in terms of the appetite of the average fan to want to see somebody in this early stage of his career, putting it together on the fly. A win's huge for that, but what you gain for the win is the critical respect you're talking about. We expect Tyron Woodley, with that athleticism, with that knockout power, and the fact that he's been close enough, not a professional boxer, never had that background, but in the combat game, that this is a fight without question Jake Paul can lose. The odds are close enough that it shows you that. Neither has proven enough up to this point where we can point to things that are intangible driven in the sport of boxing. You just need the time to put that in. So you get a win over Woodley, and if he's got to go through the fire to do that, Luke, you're going to win over parts of America, and this is true. And we can talk about the brand of Jake Paul and the character of Jake Paul all we want. But the easiest way to win over customers, faithful long-term ones, is to go out there and walk through something, to go out there and get into a war. He may have to get into a war against Tyron Woodley, for all we know, to have a chance to compete and win this. And there's a lot that can be gained from proving that, just as on the flip side, Luke, and we all know what's in play. It could happen. You get knocked out. That also tells a lot of people where you're at in your future and your potential.
I think more than that. I'm going to say that everything you said I agree with, but I'm going to add another degree of challenge here. Listen, nobody is confused that these are top-level boxers. Nobody is confused that these guys are contending for world titles anytime soon. Nobody is confused that this is as good as boxing gets. So if you're going to be graded on a curve in that sense, you also need to be exciting. If there is a criticism to be made of the Mayweather and Paul fight, it did have punctuated moments. And, again, we've been over this. The dominance showed by Floyd at his advanced age without even really trying, and as well for Logan for sort of standing up to the onslaught and proving he could be a lot more durable than a lot of folks had imagined. On the other hand, was it as action-packed as I think some folks thought it would be? No, it was not. Here is a chance where you have a dynamite puncher, in the case of Tyron Woodley, an experienced combat athlete, long in the tooth, 40 years old, but a dominant puncher, and against a guy like 24 years old, Jake Paul, who, yes, he is a lot of bluster surrounding him, of course, but also has a lot to prove. They need to be, on some measure, the takeaway Sunday night after people pay for the pay-per-view. It needs to be. It was exciting. I absolutely firmly believe that. You got to be an action fighter at this level.
Yeah, and look, his intentions are huge. To be taken serious as a real boxer. That's a long hill that he's going to have to do fight by fight to get there. We don't know if he's going to get there, and I think the fact that we don't know is part of the romance of it and all that. But in terms of winning over, the hardcore fight fan, which may not love this on the surface, but again, you go in there and fight, they're going to love you. I've noticed, and we've been very honest about the Paul brothers, about the social media influencer crossover into the fight game. Are they welcome? Should they be there? Should we care this much? The closer you get to Jake Paul, yeah, there's a few corny jokes and skits here and there, but he's a smart man. There's no question about that. He's got a daredevil craziness that we love. That's why he's doing this. But that's a smart guy that you end up liking him. The more you get closer and you do the sniff test and you get there. I'm wondering if he keeps winning, and that's the key. If he's going to end up, there's going to be like a lot of Jake Paul fans that aren't just here because they follow him on YouTube.
Again, I think if he wins, that's a big component. I think if he's exciting, that's a big component, and he has to beat names that people care about.
I mean, he's not an everyman, Jake Paul. There's no question.
Yeah, of course not.
But to a degree, him and his brother, from humble beginnings, have an everyman story coming out of suburban Cleveland, Ohio, and figuring out how to consistently pivot in this space and make huge money. Yet there's part of the character he plays to a degree that does feel like the goofball down the road.
Yeah.
And people can relate to that. There's no question about it.
You saw the first All Access episode, right?
Yes.
I mean, I thought Jake Paul was quite revealing in that when he was saying, I'm not just misunderstood, I'm intentionally misunderstood. I want you to think I'm a lowlife. I want you to think I'm a brat. I want you to think I'm out of my depth because you'll underestimate me, and then he's going to run over you like there's no tomorrow.
I mean, I've been doing that on Morning Combat, Luke, for 2 years now, okay? All right.
Hey, could you sweat more, guy? Right now, why don't we go to the ring if we can? Yes, I think we can go to the ring. We've got our ring announcer, Ahmad Crump, talking to Conwell now.
Me doing this in front of my family, in front of my friends, everybody who support me, it's going to be a major event.
So you got a big fight coming up, one of the biggest fights that you got to keep your undefeated streak alive. What have you learned about this fighter that you're fighting, and what are you going to bring to make sure you keep that undefeated streak alive?
Like you said, he's an undefeated fighter. He's 18-0, so 18 opponents have tried, none succeeded. But on Sunday nights, a whole different story. I think he's fighting a whole different type of fighter he's never experienced before. So just me going out there and showing that difference and that there's levels to this boxing game is going to take me to the top.
That's what I'm talking about. Make the city proud. Everybody make some noise. Give it up for Cleveland's own Charles Conwell.
All right, so there you have it. By the way, the ring announcer, we should say something real nice about him. But
he's
nice
a gentleman,
guy.
first of all.
His name is Ahmad Crump. That, for the last 16, I think 17 years, has been the in-house ring announcer for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, they don't play in a ring, but, the in-house PA man.
Oh, did I say ring announcer? I'm sorry.
The voice.
The voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers, right. You're right.
I mean, does Ahmad's patented work, we're going to talk about the artist as he's right over there, does it rival that famous epic Chicago Bulls 1990s with the Alan Parsons Project song playing in the background and, Game Time? Who does it rival that at all?
He's got a certain swag, I have to admit. He's got a certain level of oomph that you just can't deny.
Okay.
By the way, that's Brian Campbell. I'm Luke Thomas. Just a reset here for just a moment. We are the hosts of Morning Combat. It's a podcast we do with Showtime, with CBS Sports, and you can check us out at youtube.com/Morning Combat Live 3 times a week, plus a bunch of other stuff. We will be live on Friday, by the way, I believe, in the afternoon.
Absolutely. We're going to be hitting you with so much content this week about this fight and beyond. You're not going to know what hit you. It was us, by the way. Luke, I thought wearing dark, though. I thought this would, eliminate some of the outdoor sweating that we're doing. And I thought Cleveland by the lake would have a little bit of a breeze for me, Luke.
No. Every time we do this, they put us in either Versace robes where we sweat 10,000 pounds out,
do that, yeah.
or they stuck us here. You can't see us. We're in a tent.
My pile
we're
of
in a
sweat
tent
rags
in Cleveland
down here.
So
Yeah.
my career's going well.
All right. Resetting. Luke, your thoughts early. Your first trip to Cleveland, really investing in the city. We're right down in the heart of this sports town, a great, passionate sport. Believe land. All right?
Well, you know what? We passed
All right, you're
what was the name
early.
of the stadium? The baseball stadium?
Progressive Field.
Progressive Field. We passed it. They still have the Indian sign up, but we talked to our driver who was telling us, of course, the Guardians are going to be the new name, and then we passed the very bridge where the Guardian name comes from.
Yeah, it's a little lame.
It was nice to see. It was
maybe
nice
if
to
you're
see.
a localer, though, if you're a Clevelander, as we've established, there is a passion there. And talking about this passion, we can bring up the Browns, bring up the Cavs. You can bring up, a lot. Talking to Ahmad, tickets moving for Jake Paul. He said even in the home city, right, of Cleveland, Greater Cleveland, suburban Cleveland, where the Paul brothers are from. Cleveland, they're polarizing individuals almost on purpose to a business model, right? Taking the Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor playbook. And there's the equal love and hate in the home city here, but they're showing out on Sunday night.
So when you think that Jake Paul makes the walk on Saturday night, he's going to get equal parts cheering and booing? I don't believe that.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out who the loudest are. But when you have that polarizing quality, you're not even safe in your hometown. The hometown haters are the worst, okay? I mean, if we went back to old Marietta, Georgia right now, the amount of hate for this sweat hog right here would be...
I don't think I would get hate because you have to be famous to get hate.
Okay.
And
Will
I'm
you
not,
ever make the Wikipedia page on old Marietta?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't think my roots are quite as deep, and I don't think I've raised myself quite as high.
On a 1 to retire right now, how sweaty do I look on camera?
I mean, you literally look like you are the guy who, in the New York City summers, runs to the subway and then doesn't catch the actual train.
Has the pattern of the shirt led you to believe that the sweat stains are actually the dominant, original, default color of the shirt?
No, it's led me to believe that you shopped with your eyes closed and dressed yourself equally moronically. That's what it leads me to believe. Hey, can we get more people in the back of our shot that don't belong there?
Luke's
That'd be
going to
nice.
host. He has a producing credit, just so people know that. But obviously, Luke, this is a fun pay-per-view card, and it's got a variety Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, only on Showtime pay-per-view.
The Steven Espinosa over there.
You like how I hooked that in?
Yep.
It's a little something for everybody. So, the co-main event, one of the fighters who's going to be working
I want
out
to talk
here,
about this, yeah.
Amanda Serrano is one of the best-kept secrets in all of boxing. I mean, no worse.
Let me ask you something.
No worse than the third best pound-for-pound female fighter in the world. And you could argue for number one because of the 7-division champion. We get her in a main event, co-main event title, featherweight title defense against Mercado.
Yes.
Yemifel
Mercado. Let me ask you something about this. Manny Pacquiao was an 8-division champion, but for 2 of those belts, they were just the Ring magazine titles. Amanda Serrano has 7 of them. All of them come from sanctioning bodies, and the big ones too, IBF, and she's the IBO champ too, but WBC, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't want to take nothing away from Clarissa Shields, who, multiple-time gold medalist, now had a great debut in PFL on the MMA side, obviously an incredible champion and boxer. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve the title greatest woman of all time, or at least she should be in the consideration for it. She should be. She is that accomplished. What I guess my question to you would be, BC, is why don't we hear Amanda Serrano's name more in that? Because you and I were talking about it. She holds 7 world-class titles, 7 weight categories. She'll fight anybody from 115 to 140, and is undefeated in mixed martial arts.
And has just one loss, earlier in her career, and has been incredible. The whole thing about the 7-division world titles, and not to take away from her, not to take away from Clarissa Shields, who's been a 4-belt champion now in 2 divisions, right? And we've also had at welterweight Cecilia Brekus won all 4 titles. It does seem to be easier in women's boxing because the talent pool isn't as thick across the board for vacant titles to show up, or maybe a couple titles thrown on. So sometimes, to a degree, you have to take unifications with a grain of salt. But what you don't take with a grain of salt is the eye test of when you watch Amanda Serrano in the ring, that southpaw stance, can box, can brawl, can do whatever the fight means. And what you just said, not only a willingness and an ability to let all the potential opponents out there. And by the way, we cannot wait, and we hope we can see her against Katie Taylor for all 4 belts, one of these days, at one weight class, at lightweight. But if Amanda Serrano can, she doesn't get that love and that close up, even though she's like, I'll fight from 115, really 115, all the way up to 147 if the money was right. Do you realize how many divisions they're at? And the fact that she has fought at wildly different weight classes in the same calendar year, sometimes going from featherweight 126 down to 118, back up to 140 the next fight, back down again. You have to be a professional's professional to be able to do that physically, and then to basically say, okay, I haven't got the attention I've been deserved. And she hasn't, from the boxing media in general. But you know how you earn it? You just keep adding accolades on the end. And it's coming around for her. And she's got a tough matchup against Mercado. It's Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Yep. Mercado's moving up in weight where right now you've got Serrano with 2 of the 4 titles at 126 pounds. But she's earning it the hard way. And I have nothing but respect for Amanda Serrano.
Totally. One of the greats out of not just Puerto Rico, but of course her transplanted home in Bushwick, Brooklyn. What's great about Amanda Serrano, but by the way, if you're watching the screen here, this is Ivan Baranchik, who had a round/fight of the year this year. We'll talk about it in just a second. But to wrap up things for at least the moment on Amanda Serrano, BC, here's the other part about her. She's not a tough sell to watch. Yeah. She has insanely high volume, great combination punching. And I watched a couple of her fights today as prep for this moment here. My God, what a relentless body puncher. You gotta love a boxer, I don't care what gender or what size, who's a hardcore body attacker. She drops and wins opponents and wins fights so often on the work of her body.
Yeah, you and I watched her last outing, which was in Puerto Rico. I had a chance to call that fight. And, that was against Daniela Bermudez, who had been a unified champion 1 division below, but had a big frame and was moving up, and really goes down as maybe her toughest opponent on paper to date. And you saw Serrano, who was the bigger puncher, walking her down. And when she starts targeting that body, I mean, it's an end punch. The fight can be over just like that. It was impressive to see her against maybe a bigger puncher in terms of the one-shot variety, but somebody she can outwork. She can go to the body to finish them. She can really fight any style. That's great to see. You mentioned Ivan Baranchik here in front of us.
Tell the folks who Ivan Baranchik is.
Born in Russia, fights out of Belarus, a former 140-pound world champion. But it's the reputation for action. Most recently, last year, 2020, fought Jose Zepeda, a former title challenger at 140, and in 5 rounds they combined for 8 knockdowns. And it was a savage knockout finish for Zepeda, which Baranchik's got to bounce back from and show us on Sunday night against unbeaten Montana Love that he can do that. But this is not Baranchik's first time. I don't know, Luke, if you remember a fight that they call maybe the greatest in showbox history, when he went into, I believe it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, if I'm not wrong, and took on Abel Ramos. And this is a fight that Baranchik won, and he had to walk through hell to get there. So we know against Montana Love, the hometown guy, that Baranchik's ready and willing, but the key is that man in front of him in my eyes. That's Pedro Diaz right there, the Cuban trainer. You may remember the success he had rebranding Miguel Cotto at junior middleweight after the loss to Margarita the first time. Guillermo Rigondeaux was one of his most high-profile fighters. He's done work, like you mentioned, with transitioning in MMA. Paige Van Zandt, he's been her BKFC boxing coach to that regard. This is the first camp with Baranchik, and the whole point is they know he's got power, they know he's got balls, aggression. He's got to shorten up those punches. So when he gets into those wars, he's going to finish them faster because, Luke, you've seen him. He's got the power to finish anybody at 140.
Oh, he's got drive, and the guy is a dog. Make no mistake about it. But that's sort of a blessing and a curse, certainly the Zepeda fight, where he got the 4 knockdowns. Like, you can't take it away from him. At the same time, though, he was just a little bit too hittable to Zepeda. Obviously, that cost him in the end. And a little bit, easy for us to say this sort of sitting here, but a little bit too aggressive as well. Yeah. You would have to imagine a guy like Pedro Diaz, who has such a brilliant mind, got to dial it back just a little bit of editing to his style, to his approach, to some of the tactics that he employs. And I think you're going to get the best out of him. But the big thing here is, BC, overcoming that knockout. Again, a guy this tough, this determined, I guess I'd be lying if I said I was like, well, I don't know if he can get over the hump. Still, anytime you get kind of flattened like that, there are some questions about to what extent you will bounce back so easily.
Absolutely, and again, he's fighting a hometown guy, an unbeaten guy in Montana Love, who's really trying to make that big statement. Love's a southpaw, Luke. Baranchik's only 2 defeats. And the World Boxing Super Series tournament to Josh Taylor, who's your unbeaten 4-belt title holder at 140, took Baranchik's title that night, and that loss to Zepeda last time out. So can he overcome the southpaw jinx? Can he put his career back on the tracks? If he does, he's a contender for a world title. He's already held one at 140 here, and he's a must-see every time out. So let's see if Diaz, like you mentioned, can pull the puppet strings back just a little and try to reform a great brawler. You can't always do that, though. Okay?
All right now let's go to Ahmad Crump in the ring with Ivan Baranchik.
We got another hometown kid coming up in just a few minutes who is going to talk to us. And don't be ashamed. If you like what you hear, this is a party, too. We watching boxing. Uh-oh. Hey, I see you out there. Look at you now. You going to the club when you leave here, huh? Yes, sir. Don't forget, tickets are on sale right now over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Paul versus Woodley. He's ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Montana, right? Montana. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to introduce our next fighter. And our next fighter, he is fighting Ivan Baranchik in a 10-round super lightweight fight this Sunday over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. He holds a record of 15-0 with 7 knockouts. Fighting for the second time in the hometown right here in Cleveland. Everybody make some noise. Give it up from Cleveland, Ohio. Montana Love. Here he is one more time. Everybody give it up. Make some noise. Make some noise one time. The hometown. Cleveland, stand up. Cleveland, stand up. Give it up for Montana Love.
All right, there you have it. Montana Love, who's going to be taking on Ivan Baranchik. What do you know about Montana Love? Baranchik is a tough customer for anyone. Love, a hometown guy, that's going to be great. That'll buoy him probably, but that's a pretty tall hill to climb.
A tough fight. We're going to find out exactly what Montana Love has, and that's what you hope. You know, in a support fight for a big pay-per-view fight, you're going to get that. So shout out certainly to the matchmaking here. Love is interesting. Never been beaten, 1 draw in his pro career, 15-0-1. He's had his initial rise was a bright prospect, southpaw, but it was interrupted by some of the things going on outside the ring. Got into a little bit of trouble, served time for 2 years. But he's come out and really, in a short period of time, getting serious, getting professional, putting it together, find out how good he can be. He does dabble in other things on the side. He's got a rap song out, Luke. I got to find out about this track, these bars.
Hard bars.
I got to find out about these hard bars.
Maybe him and Tyron can have like a rap battle or something. I don't know.
What's Tyron's hit song? It was
I'll Beat Your Ass.
Yes.
Literally is what it's called.
And Montana also wants to get into the boxing promotional game, so entrepreneur indeed, but he's going to earn his biggest name and his bones in the ring. A victory over a former champion like Baranchik would be huge in terms of the catapult to what's next. It gets you right in the title picture when you beat a former champion this dangerous. He's got the hometown crowd behind him. We're going to find out if he can fight, because reform Baranchik or not, Luke, he's going to land. He's going to test your chin, and it's sink or swim at that point.
Also, it's kind of interesting that they're in his hometown, because when we were there again, so the closest thing to this we've done previously would be with the Mayweather-Paul fight with obviously Jake Paul's brother Logan, but neither guy was sort of from Miami. It wasn't your hometown guy. It wasn't mom and dad and cousins and uncles and old co-workers and neighbors hitting you up for tickets and telling you they were going to be there and whatnot. He was sort of divorced from all of that. In your hometown, I have talked to fighters who have said, oh man, I loved being home, sleeping in my bed the night before the big fight. You know, that sort of sense of comfort, of familiarity, it boosted them. At the same time, I've talked to a million other fighters who have said, dude, I really did not like fighting in my hometown because the distraction, the pressure, like the folks who never paid attention when you were doing your other stuff and getting ready, well, now they're paying attention. Now they're here. Now they want to see what's up. And against a guy like Ivan Baranchik, who, let's be clear, is more of a hardcore name than it is for casual fans, still, he's got to know the pressure is on. And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more family watching this than some of his previous contests.
You can hear him behind us. He's got a team here. You know, of all the fighters we've seen thus far with this public turnout, Montana Love's been the big name there. With an interesting backdrop, Luke. I'm a big fan of this. Public square out here. Behind us, the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument, Luke. As a armed forces man yourself, Semper Fi, never die.
That's right.
Brother.
That's not quite what they say, but
okay. I'm sure you can respect the fallen ones behind us. It's a warrior feel. And also you see Montana Love grabbing about 3 or 4 of some rising local amateur names who've got designs, nationally ranked, have designs on big things themselves, getting to share the ring with him ahead of this big pro homecoming right now.
Again, this may not happen to him because, for example, I was there when Lamont Peterson fought in Washington, D.C., and the crowd did nothing but boost him. There's just no, obviously not in his final retirement fight against Lipinets, but all the other ones, especially Amir Khan, had boosted him to an extraordinary degree. Has there been a contest where you've attended or one that stands out to you where they were in a fighter's hometown and it did get to them?
You know, sometimes
and Las Vegas fighters don't count.
No, the knee-jerk reaction is more of, can you find a hometown that doesn't have, let's say, a major pro sports team that's just hungering for something professional linked to? Terrence Crawford's homecoming in Nebraska and Omaha have been amazing from that storm. You find the real fight fans out there. We find that a lot on Showbox with the different stops and the non-traditional towns. So sometimes it can be a boost just from the feel of the building. I can't remember a thing offhand where, you know, certainly I've seen fights where New York-based fighters fighting in New York, you'll have the crowd going extra every time you touch.
For sure.
And that can certainly, you want to talk about change the outcome of a fight. It can play with judges' heads for sure, without question about that in terms of momentum. I don't know if I can remember a fighter who lost because of that, but you know how many times in Las Vegas, if there is a beloved money man, a Manny Pacquiao, if you will, you're going to get those chairs drowning out the other noise in the building, and it's not easy to win when you're the road fighter, and it's certainly, as you mentioned, not as easy when you got to prove yourself and you got to do that at home.
Yeah, it's going to be curious. Going back to the main event with Jake Paul, you seem to think that there'll be somewhat of a split in the audience. I tend to not think that, but I also wonder about the boos for Tyron Woodley. I actually think he's going to love that.
Well, if
here's why. Because he always comes in with a chip on his shoulder anyway. He's got a bit of a me against the world kind of attitude, which I'm not judging him for. If that works for him, then it works for him. But if you do have that attitude and you are the sort of, you know, the B-side here, let's be real, and you're getting booed, I actually feel like that's going to light a fire under him a little bit.
Well, here's where I give him credit, because he wasn't a favored chosen son in his UFC days from the standpoint of UFC brass, President Dana White. Like, it wasn't chummy. It was more every time Dana White's got a microphone in front of him, he's saying something bad, even though Woodley's the defending champion and one of the pound-for-pound best. Okay, that was, you know, is he hard to deal with? I don't know. That's their own relationship up and down. But that has always, I think, mixed with him constantly being the betting underdog in his biggest fights. Specifically, his rise to champion, and immediately after being champion, Woodley was the betting underdog in something like 6 of 7 in the biggest run of his career. Not only does that put a chip on your shoulder, it also created an entrepreneurial spirit in Woodley. Now, you can also argue this may have been part of his ultimate, when it unraveled, his days of being on top as the UFC welterweight champion. Did he have too many, oars in the water around with his rap music, with his acting, with all that stuff, with the TMZ show? You can certainly question that, but I think what it showed you was he was like, UFC's not going to back me the way maybe they should. I'll do it myself. He's had that sort of me against the world, mano a mano thing that he's going to eat up. What did Steven Jackson, the great former NBA vet, host of All the Smoke, and that famous quote I won't stop talking about this week? He says, I make love to pressure. Tyron Woodley's going to lick the tears of the hometowners who are here for Jake Paul.
Like Eric Hartman when he did that to Scott Tenorman and made him eat his parents in Chile?
Probably exactly like that.
Something like that. Yeah. By the way, if you're looking at Montana Love here, not exactly the most thrilling workout I've ever seen, but almost by design. Ivan Baranchik, you guys can't see this. I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but he was sitting here watching his opponent from ringside. A lot of times these guys do the workout just to break a sweat, burn a couple pounds. Not a couple pounds,
well,
but,
it's a media event. The photographers are here.
Right. They're not actually trying to show you what they can do, per se.
Some people have blown it off and just make it a public appearance. It is what it is. But how about this fight? Not only the potential for big-time sales on Sunday and a loud presence behind it, which you know more than anyone coming through this quarantine and everything was turned upside down, combat sports included. I'm certainly excited to hear that pop and that roar on Sunday night. It makes it feel like a show. It's extra exciting there in that regard, but I'm also catching some vibes that I think we're in a fight city here on top of that.
Now, what would make you say that?
I just feel like there's,
Have people been playing the knockout game with you as you walk down the street?
I mean, can I relate as a native factory towner? Blue collar. Can I feel that vibe in the air? Maybe, certainly, but this is going to be interesting in terms of are we going to get the traditional fight fan on Sunday in the crowd? Are we going to get the Jake Paul fight fan? Are we going to get the curious? Because part of where I was trying to bring it all around full circle is there's a pretty big media turnout for this one, including our brethren in the MMA side.
Yeah, plenty.
You're talking about Mark Raymundi of ESPN. You're talking about Mike Bond from MMA Junkie. You're talking about Oscar Willis from Mac Life. Heavy hitters on the MMA side.
And I can see Casey Leiden there from MMA Fighting.
It's kind of the perfect storm this weekend, with there not being, outside of a UFC Fight Night card, a legitimate, powerful competitor.
Okay.
This is going to attract a different crowd.
We got to go now to Ahmad Crump. He's going to introduce Tommy Fury.
So, Montana, this is your second time fighting right here in the hometown. How does it feel to be back fighting over in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
It's a dream come true, man. It's amazing. Go ahead.
What are you going to do to make sure that undefeated streak stays alive?
Just be me, be too pretty, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to get the fans, back home what they're looking for. It's going to be an exciting fight. And definitely tune in. Get your tickets.
I appreciate you. Make the city proud. Everybody make some noise. Give it up for Montana Love. All right, so don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we do have tickets on sale.
All right.
Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Thomas, Brian Campbell. Brian Campbell looks like someone. Remember the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge?
I was going to say, it is an ice bucket challenge.
You look like someone did that, but no, you're just sweating like a...
is that a two-tone shirt? Sure, no. Well, the top does look leathery now, okay? You know what I'm saying? Not dissimilar to your skin after a week out in the sun, Luke. Well, welcome back after a 2-week vacation. In 2021, a 2-week vacation.
In Europe, a 2-week vacation is considered a fraction of what it should be.
In the States.
In the United States, they call you being greedy.
You've been eating long enough now. We did see the end of Dakota Love's workout right there. Montana Love, not Dakota Love. I'm really, that's excuse me on that one, Montana Love.
Or Love Island, which Tommy Fury was on.
Let me ask you, perfect transition. Because Tommy Fury's coming, and I mentioned different crowds, MMA media and fans.
Totally.
Internet celebrity fans. Now we're getting the reality TV star turn with Tommy Fury, the half-brother of unbeaten heavyweight champion Tyson Fury.
I'm told we have a few minutes before Tommy makes his way to the ring. Let me say this, BC. Have you watched any Love Island, British or American?
No. I was an early Temptation Island fan myself back in the the early turn of the aughts. But no.
Temptation Island, true story. You could get an STD just watching it. It was amazing in that way.
We'll edit that. Wait. Sorry. We're live. Okay. Yeah. We'll just keep going then. Great. That's great.
They're playing Nuck If You Buck from Crime Mob, by the way. I just want to point that out.
It appears that certainly if you're the brother or half-brother, whatever, of Tyson Fury, you have a chance to become a Klingon celebrity. But Tommy Fury has legitimately crossed over through this show, through his relationship with his girlfriend, who he finished runner-up to in this season,
yes.
Series 5 of Love Island in the UK. That now he's, a tabloid sensation. The real question is, though, can he fight? What is he, 6-0 thus far?
Yes.
Fighting as what, light heavyweight-ish, right around that weight limit?
Right.
He's going to go in there against Anthony Taylor on Sunday night, who's certainly a novice in boxing, just 0-1, but has had, a 7-5 run in MMA, fought in Bellator, and is a training camp partner, sparring partner, part of the overall Team Paul family. So you got a lot of interesting storylines coming together.
Fury looks good, getting off the bus, as they say. He's in shape. He does seem to have big power. The only sort of knock on him, obviously he's still very young in his career. Some of the opponents he's had 3 different opponents who've had double-digit, not just losses, but double-digit losses with no wins. I think he has 4 of his opponents had a combined record of like 10 and 100.
Which is not, though, not
it's
ridiculous for a fighter in the young.
That's right.
early
It's
game.
not all that uncommon given his level.
Yeah.
But the fans should also have managed expectations for someone at this stage of their career.
Well,
what is really
and
possible?
he's also somebody who at this point is probably equal celebrity and fighter, right? You know, where Jake Paul's making that transition. I mean, he's keeping his celebrity up high while making it,
Right.
but he's trying to transition into being a legit fighter. Tommy's still sort of half brother, half fighter, half celebrity, yet he could end up being the perfect opponent for Jake Paul down the line, which obviously there's no secret of why he's on this card and why there's the potential coming attractions maybe in the future, but fan base-wise, attention-wise, that could be very interesting.
All right.
You're getting word, Luke. You're being interrupted.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting some instructions 1,000 different ways. All right, let's go now to the ring announcer, Ahmad Crump. I believe now he's going to introduce Tommy Fury.
All right, you ladies and gentlemen. So in just a few minutes, we're going to introduce our next fighter right now, but don't forget, and I can't say and stress it even more enough, tickets are on sale, $25. $25 right now, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You can purchase them here, or tickets will be out at the door, or you can also do it via stream, pay-per-view, Showtime pay-per-view, and you know how to get down. Ain't nothing like Showtime. Nothing is like Showtime, so make sure you pick up your tickets today or tomorrow. Do it online from your phones or your computers. And I believe the next fighter is on his way down in just a few minutes. And he is definitely going to put down a great workout for everybody out here, all the boxing fans out here. All right. Hey, 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 hey. Also, we're talking about Jake Paul being the hometown kid, but we cannot forget about Montana Love and also Charles Conwell as well. They're putting it down for us, putting on for our city of Cleveland, Ohio. Make sure you come out and support, if anything, our hometown heroes. $25. That's all it costs you, ladies and gentlemen. $25. You can get your tickets at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, or you can stream it live, Showtime pay-per-view. You can stream it, and you can enjoy it from the comfort of your own home. It is going to be a battle down here in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. I can't wait. Sunday, 8 p.m., August 29th. You need to be there. You need to be there. It's going to be nothing like it, folks. Nothing like it. 18,000 strong. 18,000 fans will be in the building. One of the first events that we've had over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and I can't wait to make this thing happen. Also, a big shout out to my main man, DJ Kosher Cuts on the ones and twos, supplying all the sounds for our media workout right here in beautiful Public Square. Don't forget, if you get hungry, we got plenty of food over there in the back. We got some great barbecue on sale right now. If you get thirsty, the beer garden is going down right now as well, too. Sit back and enjoy yourself while we got some of the best fighters right here in our beautiful city of Cleveland, Ohio. And it's going down, folks. It's going to be a great time. The rain is going away, so they'll humid, but it's still beautiful out here. Hope you guys have a great time still going on. Hey, hey. Hey, 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 hey. You guys have seen all the low blows that's been thrown between Woodley and Paul. I'm telling y'all, it comes to an end this Sunday. It comes to an end this Sunday. All the talking is going to be done. We're going to find out who is the real king. Who's the real king? Is it going to be Jake Paul? Is it going to be Tyron Woodley? It's only one way to find out. They're going to let them fight over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, just 5 minutes from where I'm standing at. $25 for those tickets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next fighter is coming to the ring right now. He'll be taking on Anthony Taylor in a 6-round fight on pay-per-view. He is the younger brother of the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. He is from Manchester in the UK, where he is already a massive star, finishing up as runner-up on the UK hit reality show Love Island. He is 6-0 with 4 knockouts, 23 years old. Everybody make some noise. Give it up for Tommy Fury!
All right, here we are, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell in downtown Cleveland here at the Paul versus Woodley media workout, and you can see him in the ring now.
Public Square is wild right now. Public Square
the younger brother of, half-brother, but still younger brother of Tyson Fury. Here's Tommy Fury. We said it before, BC. Kid looks good getting off the bus. Well-muscled, looks like he's in incredible shape. And I'm looking forward to seeing him here. I think, is this his U.S. debut? I think it might be.
It is his U.S. debut, and what's interesting is his brother, Tyson Fury, also made his U.S. debut on Showtime, as did Anthony Joshua. So it's a big opportunity for Fury's career. There's no question about it. Future potential fight with Jake Paul notwithstanding, to get this type of close-up. It's going to be in there against Anthony Taylor, a guy who we know is tough, got some MMA experience, not the most accomplished boxer, but neither is Tommy Fury up to this point. Just 6 fights. He's been unbeaten. He's done the things he's supposed to do. He looks the part of action hero, more or less. In fact, I'm going to need, I don't know, a DNA and blood test to prove that he's actually part of the Fury family. They don't look that handsome in that household.
No,
okay?
he's definitely more handsome than his brother.
I mean, can he fight on the level, though, of a
Right.
Tyson, of Huey Fury, their cousin? You got to prove that. You see TNT on the back. He's going to have a chance to let his hands go. Could you do a worse audition to enter this crossover celebrity bubble? And let's remember, Tommy Fury with the reality star TV background on Love Island fits that bill completely. Could you do worse than getting a potential big knockout Sunday night and then grab the microphone and say, hey, Jake, over here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, over here.
So if you watch UK media surrounding this fight at all, it is very clear that what they're hoping for here is not just a win for Tommy Fury, but that the win sets up a showdown with Jake Paul. Now, whether that will happen in the United States, happen in the UK, or happen at all, I guess we'll have to see. But that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say, BC, and this is something that's actually kind of interesting to me, names are blessings and curses in combat sports. So, like, Julio Cesar Chavez, that Chavez name is so legendary, but it was a lot for Junior to live up to. On the MMA side, Gracie. Gracie's one of the most, and Shamrock too, some of the most legendary names. It gets you noticed on the bill. It gets you put on the bill, but it can be a lot to live up to. Where is he in his journey in your mind? Clearly he's benefiting from the Fury last name. He's even said it himself. To what extent, though, is it not weighing him down exactly, but maybe raising expectations in a way that he's not prepared to meet?
It's always going to raise expectations. Whether you're Muhammad Ali's grandson, who just made his pro debut,
right. I forget his middle name.
Nico Ali Walsh. Well, shout out to him. He had a great win in his debut. Or if you're, Bill Dez, the fourth cousin of Muhammad Ali. I mean, anytime there's name association, there's going to be pressure to see what you do. There's no question. I think in Tommy's case, he's done a great job building his own fan base with the crossover into reality TV and now British tabloids where, is the draw on him going to be more that he's Tyson Fury's brother or more that he's his own celebrity who also can fight a little bit too? We're going to find out how much more he can fight on Sunday night. That Do you stay the Jake Paul silo side of the road? Is he a potential face in the crossover celebrity boxing, not so serious yet, but trying to get there, subculture of larger boxing pay-per-view? I wonder if he can become a star in that, Luke, and you don't even have to worry potentially about the down the road. Can he be as good as the Fury name? There are new avenues, and to make boxing stars. To be honest with you, who knows if the balloon will last or how much the bubble can be? I think he can compete potentially in either one. Certainly the crossover one right now, he can compete in that.
No doubt about it. He's undefeated as it stands, 6-0. Has had several knockouts. The last fight went to a decision. So he's been put through the distance. This fight is going to be the opener for the pay-per-view main card and will only be a 6-rounder. So you can see here, there is his opponent. That is Anthony Taylor. And he is right now talking to the audience, but was previously kind of heckling Tommy Fury from the side of the ring.
He's
The
part
kid's
of
got spunk.
He's part of the Jake Paul extended team. They have the training camps in Puerto Rico. Anthony Taylor, a trusted sparring partner. We mentioned the 7-5 pro MMA record. He's been to the Bellator level, so he's going to be a tough out either way. But you love the confidence early on. I'm going to show up to the Tommy Fury affair and maybe clown him a bit on the road there.
Yeah, I wish he had a mic.
Hey, if you work in the Jake Paul camp, Luke, your taunt game, your meme game, probably on point.
Yeah, it's probably pretty good. You get some good input from others who are also probably pretty good at it. Also, it's just a great way to get media. Show up to your rival's workout and then steal the thunder a little bit.
It's a little Clubber Lang-esque, if you will, okay?
Although I will say...
I know you will.
No, hear me out. I will say Tommy Fury, listen, if you pay attention to UK media, there is a lot of scrutiny around his actual ability because his brother is, extraordinarily good, and he is just 6 fights in and has had some lackluster competition. It's not unfair to say that. But if you just listen to Tommy talk, seems to keep his head down, seems to keep, for the most part, his mouth shut, seems to just kind of do what a professional is supposed to do. It's just why I asked you about the name, because it's so significant. And I also will say this, BC, when you do something like Love Island, which, it is the world's most vapid TV show, but it's incredibly popular. People like it. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Because on the one hand, it's going to signal boost your name to the nth degree, especially if you're a boxer and your last name's Fury. On the other hand, it's going to immediately draw skepticism because, no, that's what you're really about. You're the Love Island guy who boxes, not the boxer who does the Love Island thing.
Well, the thing that could supplant that and make it a not a conversation at all is how much is he getting from the Fury name, meaning, the genes, the hand-me-down. He's got looks that his brother and father may not have to us, but does he have the same intangibles, the backbone? The Fury men are a fighting men, Luke, okay? They have no bones about it, whether it's bare-knuckle fighting outside, whether it's professional boxing at the heavyweight title level, whether potentially it's in a bar, Luke, okay? These guys can fight. If he's got that as a foundational backdrop, which we won't know yet, he has a chance to go a lot further than he could on just celebrity name alone. It looks like he can punch a little bit. Obviously, the skills, how much time has he put in, he's going to prove that, but he may have a good chance to just have that bite-down chin and that resolve. The same resolve that got Tyson Fury up off the canvas in Los Angeles in 2018 in round 12 against Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, and also I would say for a guy with 6 fights, he is taking on a challenge that, how would you compare what he's attempting versus what Jake Paul is attempting?
It's in the same category. Now, it was
Woodley had a much more decorated MMA
Woodley,
career.
much more accomplished than Anthony Taylor. But
is also much more, relatively speaking, over the hill.
Absolutely. You take all those facts. Does this look like a potential, Final Four, semifinal round for the winners to face each other? There's certainly potential because the matchmaking is all on the same level, which is, again, when somebody's being a Kimbo Slice, you've long called the MMA equivalent of what the Paul brothers are doing in boxing. Potential.
The precursor.
Yeah. Did we want to see Kimbo have a chance to legitimize himself? Yes. And to his credit, he took the opportunity with the UFC with the Ultimate Fighter. There's no question about that. But at some level also, though, you knew what you were getting into with his matchmaking. He was going to fight older legends or people that weren't really quote-unquote fighters in order to fill that bill and build his name. Eventually, for any of these guys, though, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, whomever, you start looking legit enough, Luke, the legit fighters and ex-champions are going to show up. And you're going to have to prove yourself because the money will be there. And we're so early in that regard.
Yeah, we certainly are. And this is why measuring the expectations are certainly important. I do wonder, though, the Jake Paul collision course that they both seem to be on, would they put that fight where is that fight biggest? UK?
Without question. What that fight can potentially do with a live gate, with a walk-up at a stadium, when you take into all those factors,
we're having to move seats here while
the Paul social media superstardom, the Fury name, that's an event. That is an event. So, do we know if both of these guys are going to be of the ilk of quote-unquote legitimate boxing? Again, you're not going to know until you follow the journey, and that's what we're on right now. But both are ready for that platform. Both are ready for sold-out soccer stadium if they can build that, Luke, and to draw the attention from the traditional combat sports news cycle. There's no question about it. This is a match sort of potentially made in heaven in that regard.
You know what Cleveland needs?
Air conditioning outside?
I'd say more bugs. Doesn't have enough bugs.
Well, it is a season right now. What was the name of the bug that we were told? A horse fly?
Some sort of fly is, I don't know.
It's the season for that. I mean, have you ever been in Maine in August, Luke? You can get swallowed by about 4,000 mosquitoes.
We had cicadas in D.C. this summer, but they don't really do anything.
Okay.
Except make a lot of noise.
Yeah, cicadas are annoying, Luke. They ain't a Maine.
I've been hospitalized from mosquito bites when I was in the Marine Corps.
You've been hospitalized for a gallbladder. I was there with you, Luke.
Yeah, it was a long day. Good thing we have more mosquitoes than bees here. All right, you're looking at Tommy Fury here, hitting pads with his trainer. Again, not really trying to show off the world, just trying to entertain the fans, let the media get some photographs. And I do believe, though, I should say this, I believe we're going to get Tommy Fury in here in the tent with us, and we're going to talk to him for a few minutes as well.
Luke, I got to ask you a personal question about Tommy Fury. It's not personal for you, it's personal for him. His DMs must be a masterpiece.
Oh. His DMs live in a state that yours and mine never have.
I mean, even when we
never will.
Even when we joked around with people like Luke Rockhold, oh man, the DMs must be wild.
So what is Tommy Fury, 22?
I think Fury might be operating on a higher level at this point. I mean, when you're atop the British tabloids with that face and look and that name, a breakout celebrity sort of waiting to happen.
You're a young, rich, athletic, handsome 22-year-old. Yeah, I bet his DMs are a show. Yeah, they're a show.
It's great every time our producers walk around and they see the sweat stains on my shirt right now, and they give me that disappointed dad, like you just wet your pants at school look. Like I got to pick you up from the elementary school.
I don't know that look because I've never done that, but you keep telling more stories. Those sound good.
Public Square in Cleveland is our backdrop. Luke, good turnout. You hear the energy. You can feel the energy. I can smell the barbecue. I don't know if Cleveland's got a reputation for barbecue on the Memphis, Kansas City, Austin level, Luke. I don't know. I'm willing to try it afterwards, my bad liver notwithstanding. That smell, though, is a 10 out of a 10. Can you agree with that?
It was pretty good. There's also, you can see it here if you look closely. Right there on the right of the screen, you can see the acai, barn. I might hit up the acai barn when it's all over.
All right. I'm sure. Yeah, this is scintillating analysis. But that's Tommy Fury's 6th-round bout against Anthony Taylor, part of the Jake Paul extended team sparring partners.
Let me ask you about UK media. They seem significantly more critical than any American media. Are they right to be?
It's a different overall from the tabloids on down and up. It's a different sort of flavor. It's more intrusive.
Have British fighters typically complained about that?
Yeah, it's sort of. I mean, look, you're a big soccer fan. It's the same thing in that.
They're
realm,
brutal.
No question about it. Yeah, their fighters get pretty brutalized in that regard. There's no, you got to earn that. I mean, always the big thing was can the fresh-faced, popular UK fighter come to Las Vegas and beat a prom American in a big fight? The rare times it's happened, it's been a big deal. But they got to go through their own media cycle first and survive that to get here. So, again, it keeps going back to Tommy Fury, good-looking guy. Can he fight? I don't know yet. But he can handle the media cycle. He can be tabloids. He knows what it's like to have a famous name. So,
how intertwined is his training with Tyson Fury?
That's something I'm certainly looking forward to asking him. They don't share the same trainer. I'm sure they've shared some training camps. I don't recall off the top of my head seeing a lot of time with them together there.
There's sparring footage on YouTube that I've seen, but it's hard to know what to make of
right,
that.
Early on, Tommy had been in this camp, had done some sparring, but this is an extended family. I mentioned their cousin Huey Fury, who's a heavyweight contender. Career fallen off to a slight degree the last couple of years, but had fought for a world title before. Big John Fury, the father of both Tyson and Tommy here, he claims to be a full lineage bare knuckle champion going back multiple generations,
wow.
Luke. So I'm not going to mess with that, per se. They understand this game, though. So
they do.
There's an advantage in that regard.
Yeah. What's interesting is that from a disposition standpoint, when you listen to Tommy speak, and again, we're hoping to get him here in the tent with us to talk, he's not quite the braggadocious type that his dad is, or even how Tyson is. He's much more of a common sportsman in that way, but given the name, given the reality TV star, whatnot, he has certainly elevated himself in a dramatic way.
And if your brother is 6'9" and he's the heavyweight champion of the world and he's dynamite on the microphone and he can do breakout karaoke out of nowhere in front of live audiences and carry you may naturally just be a step back in that regard, Luke, No
doubt about it. I mean, it's hard to match that no matter.
It's like you doing this show with me. At some points you just go, you know what? I got to play the boring old guy.
Yeah, no one says that. No one says that. No one ever says that. I think he's going to talk to our in-ring announcer, and then we're going to get him here as he gets the gloves off.
Give it up for Tommy Fury,
Let's
everybody.
go to Ahmad Crump, the ring announcer, right now.
So, Tommy, you got a huge fight coming up right here, first time in Cleveland. Talk about the fight you got coming up. We're going to turn. I'm sorry. After you do that, I'm sorry. All right. So I guess Anthony Taylor is out there right now, and I guess he is taking on you on Sunday. Talk about the atmosphere that you're expecting. What kind of fight you're expecting on Sunday?
First of all, what's going on, Cleveland? Yeah. Big fight Sunday night, should I say. It's a little bit different in the UK. It's always Saturday. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the welcome. I'm excited to perform for you guys on Sunday night. I'm going to take this man's head clean off. He's not even important enough to be in the ring and do a bit of pads. So forget him. I'm here. I'm going to put on a show. And I'm coming for your boy. I'm going to nail him too.
Hey, make it happen. Everybody make some noise. Give it up one time for Tommy Fury.
And there you have it. Tommy Fury speaking into our in-ring announcer, Ahmad Crump. He should be making his way over here now, and we're going to get him in the tent. Let's see who's sweating more, the guy who just hit mitts or the washed co-announcer here with me in the tent.
I'm aging at a rapid rate here today,
yes,
but I'm very excited to get
there he is.
Tommy Fury in the house.
Live
sir.
in the flesh. How you doing, sir?
Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas.
Let's get him a microphone, right? Where's his microphone?
Let's get this beautiful man a microphone.
There we are.
Tommy, no insult to your lineage and the great people of your extended family, but I'm really going to need to see the DNA test. There's no way with that face that you're in the male lineage of the Furies. There's some ugly fighting men, and you know that.
Do you know how many times people have said that to me? I think I must have got switched up at the hospital, eh?
All right, first time. You've been first time fighting in the United States, yes?
First time fighting in the United States. I've been over a few times around Fight Week. Obviously, Tyson fights over here. So, I've become pretty accustomed to what the USA holds when you're fighting over here. I've seen, all the fight nights, all the fight weeks, the build-ups, I'm used to it. It's not my first rodeo because from a young kid I've seen Tyson, box Klitschko, box all these great guys, and I've always been there Fight Week, watching how he handles himself, watching what he does on Fight Week, and I've just thought to myself, when my time comes, which is now, I'm going to do the exact same now. So I flew me and my team over here. We know exactly how to handle business, and this is easy work.
Okay, that's an advantage that can be gained of the pressure that comes with the Fury name. You've also lived and watched your brother Tyson do big things. Like you mentioned, it kind of feels normal. What else do you think you took just from being raised by one of my favorite people in the world, Big John Fury, in terms of predestined toughness that your other opponents won't have?
Everything. To be a Fury, you grow up fighting. You don't do anything else. It's fight, fight, fight. As a kid, fight, fight, fight. And that's all I've done my entire life. I've been around fighters. Everyone in my family does it. And now it's my time. I'm coming here. It's my UK debut. I cannot wait to perform for everybody here. I've been recepted so well. And I just cannot wait to get in that ring Sunday night and perform for everybody.
What's more pressure for you? Not even that you care per se, but just in terms of what you're feeling. Carrying the Fury last name or the tabloid media that comes from being in Love Island and reality TV?
I don't feel one bit of pressure because there's only pressure when you're trying to live up to somebody. And I've said this time and time again, there will never ever be another Tyson Fury. No one will ever come close. I'm only trying to do the best that I can do. And as long as I'm being the best version of Tommy Fury, I don't care what that is. I'm here, I'm my own man, I'm here to do my own things, I'm not here to copy anybody. So I'm not trying to live up to anybody, so that takes all the pressure off. I'm here to do the best that I can do, not to try and follow in Tyson's footsteps, to make my own footsteps.
Do you feel like the UK media is unfair?
I mean, media is media. You know, whatever you do in this world, everyone's going to have a good comment and a bad comment. So I don't really care about that. I do what I want to do. As long as my family and my friends and my team around me think I'm doing right, that's all that matters to me.
Tommy, you sweat effortlessly. I, on the other hand, have not sweat well. I mean, how embarrassed should I be right now?
Pretty embarrassed.
I'm drinking a hell of a lot of black coffees at the minute, so I think that's the key to sweat, guys. So if you want to get a Starbucks order,
guys
I think
like us, Luke.
you'll end up like me.
Yes.
Guys like us.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely. Your opponent, Anthony Taylor, got a little bit of an MMA background, but also has some insight to the Jake Paul camp. So that's building this narrative. Jake Paul in the main event against Tyron Woodley. U.S. debut for Tommy Fury, Tyson's brother, famous in his own right. Are you thinking what we're thinking?
I mean, of course. You know, everybody's thinking that, but for me, that doesn't matter to me. Jake Paul doesn't even exist in my eyes. The only person I'm concentrating on here is Anthony Taylor. Jake Paul doesn't come into my mind once during this week, during this whole fight build-up. I've got to take care of this man on Sunday, which I intend to do in style. Then we can think about that. But until that's done, Anthony Taylor.
Did you watch a lot of tape on Taylor?
No, I've not watched anything. Obviously, what you've got on YouTube, but being in the cage and being in the ring is two different things.
Right.
And I know how long I've been in that ring, sparred up and down. I've been doing this my whole life. And when you've not been in it your whole life and you think you can get in there and just throw hands with someone who has, it's a very different story, and he's going to see that on Sunday night.
Sorry to cut you off. Let me ask you a real question here, because I know a lot of people that are watching may be thinking like this. Jake and Logan Paul are in a lot of ways the faces of this new subgenre of celebrity crossover boxing. It's all part of the boxing. It's all professional for the most part, except for some exhibitions. But it's developed and aimed at ticket sales, at getting people excited. Are you in this for the money and fame and fight Jake Paul and the big celebrity? Or are you in this for what Jake also says in certain interviews? Be like, I don't care about that crap. I want to be a real fighter. I'm a Fury. You know, this is what we do. What's the split on that for you?
I think it speaks for itself. You know, you've got the wannabe famous, the wannabe Instagram famous behind us, and Mr. Anthony Taylor shouting about, can't get off his phone, doing any autographs that's out there. You've got me, who's not been on my phone once in fight week. I've been living and training like a demon. I don't care about fame. I don't care about money. All I'm in this to be is a world champion. And what I see is this. I'm on a long road, and I'm stopping off to refill the car. That's all I'm doing here. I'm coming off. It's easy money. I'm not part of this YouTubing thing. I'm a fighting man. These boys that you're talking about here, the bloggers, the YouTubers who've just come into this sport, I've been doing this sport my entire life. And I'm coming here to show these boys that you can't just pick it up and expect to compete with the real boys.
So part of this is creating some separation in the minds of fans. There's the YouTube thing, and then there's the Tommy Fury thing, and there's not a lot of overlap.
There's the YouTube thing, and then you've got the real deal, and that's me. And that's why I've come over here to take this fight and show everybody, listen, don't put me in that YouTube category, because I am not in that category.
Okay, so this is a big fight for you. Let's say you win, everything goes well. Give me what you think is realistic in terms of goals for 2022.
Anything's possible. I mean, if you'd have asked me 12 months, would I be sitting here talking to you guys, you know, fighting whoever I'm fighting and fighting on Jake Paul's undercard, I would have laughed in your face. You know, nobody knows what tomorrow holds, so we're going to take fight by fight. We're going to take each day as it comes, and we'll see what 2022 has to hold.
Please do for us. Break down Jake Paul as a fighter. The pluses, the minuses through 3 pro fights, 4 rounds overall.
Yeah, and
what kind of feeling
and
are
prediction
you
for the main event.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. You know, Jake Paul is a YouTuber. He's only been doing this for a short while. The guy's doing good. He's doing good. You can't say he's not. You know, he's taking care of business. He looks as good as he can after 3 fights. You know, let's not mistake this. The guy's doing well, but to think he can call out names like he has been doing and fight these guys, you know.
Like Canelo, it's like,
yeah,
what?
it's ridiculous. That he needs to stop. If he wants to be a real fighter and get respected in this sport, stop talking about Canelos and Mayweathers and all that sort of stuff. Knuckle down. Stop fighting MMA people, because we all know the reason why he's fighting MMA people. We all know that. So that doesn't need to be mentioned. Start fighting some real fighters, and if he thinks he's a real deal, come and face me. I'm no Olympic gold medalist here. I've had 6 amateur fights when I was a kid, and I'm here now. So I'm not no great shakes. If he wants to get it on, we can get it on. I mean, my fight prediction for his fight, there's no way in hell, you know, Tyrone should lose his fight. Tyrone's been fighting all his life as well. He knows what it's like to be in a fight. He knows how to get by. He knows how to recover from being hurt. Jake Paul's not witnessed any of this stuff. You know, we're going to see Jake Paul in a fight for the first time on Sunday night. And the main thing that we all want to see is how he deals under pressure, getting hit with shots that he's going to get hit with, and how he recovers. Because we've all been there. I've had fights. I've been knocked up and down my whole life. So I know what to do. I know what I've got inside me. Let's see if Jake Paul's got the minerals for it.
Very quickly, I just want to remind the folks, you're looking at Daniel Dubois in the ring here in Cleveland. Go ahead, BC.
Yeah, young British heavyweight have an important fight himself on this undercard. When we look at the idea even of you fighting Jake Paul, and it's not just like, I respect that both of you want to prove how legit you are, and that should be your mentality, but you know you're going to bring in a lot of fans from the reality tabloid side. He's going to bring in a lot of fans from all of his many endeavors, acting, YouTubing, and all that. Is that a soccer stadium fight? I mean, how big would the draw be for something like that?
Don't get me wrong, I've got nearly 4 million people following me back in the UK and over here and around the world. Jake's got however many followers he's got. It's a massive, massive, colossal fight. Everybody knows that. But I've got to take care of business on Sunday, and so has he. And providing we both come through our fights, let's get it on. I've been saying this through this whole thing. I am not running away from nobody. I've not had to put Jake Paul in with the sparring partner because I've not got the minerals to fight him first. Jake Paul wants to gauge how I am. He hasn't got the minerals to get straight in there. Whereas if it was me on his foot and someone wanted to fight me, I'd be straight in there. So, God willing, we both come through on Sunday. There's no more excuses. Let's get it on.
He's firing me up.
Yeah,
He's firing me up right now.
We were debating this earlier. If they put a fight between you and Jake Paul in the UK, let's assume it was promoted correctly, could you sell 50,000 tickets for that?
More.
You think so?
100% more. I am one of the most, Instagram famous, whatever you want. They've got 4 million followers almost. Jake's a world famous phenomenon. Of course we can sell 50,000 tickets. That isn't a problem. Even if it's not done right, 50,000 tickets will be sold. This is a mega fight, don't get me wrong. It is a mega fight. But like I say, I'm not here to jinx anything. I've got to get through Mr. Taylor on Sunday night, and then I'm open to everything. But until then, boys, I can't talk about Jake Paul because he is not in my mindset right now.
Oh, man, this guy, he's getting me fired up, okay? He's talking the talk right now.
My wife is a huge Love Island fan. What is the worst part about being on Love Island?
There's no worst part about being on Love Island. You're surrounded by girls, sun. You don't have to do a handstand. You're sunbathing all day. What's not to hate? At the end of the day.
Where was the British island? Where were you guys? Were you guys in Hawaii?
So we were in Spain. It's called Spain. And it was called Mallorca, which is a little place in Spain.
Oh, Mallorca, yeah.
Yeah, Mallorca, yeah. So it was way up in the hills, nobody around for miles. In a villa that they use all the time. You cameraed 24 hours, mic'd up 24 hours. It's one of them. But if you're real, you do well on it. But if you've got something to hide in your video 24 hours a day, you're going to slip up somewhere.
I told my wife I was amazed. You and your girlfriend Molly May, right? You're still together?
Still together. Molly May's my soulmate. She's my life partner.
Wow.
And Love Island.
You're 22?
22.
Well, don't use those words just yet.
I will use them words.
Okay,
You know why? Because
right.
I'm confident. She's everything that I want in a missus. She supports me. She's right by my side every step of the way. And I'm not one of these guys who lives in clubs chasing women. That doesn't satisfy me. I'm out to be a world champion and achieve my dreams. And I've not got time to mess around with women on the way.
Fair enough.
I've got my missus at the side of me. Let's go on and collect them belts.
All right, after a real wholesome answer like that, this next question is probably going to make you upset. I thought it was inappropriate, but my co-host was big on asking it. Your DMs on a daily basis must look like the Magic Kingdom. I mean, it just must be,
Boys, I'll be honest with you. I don't check.
Can I look for you, please?
I'll send you my password later on. You can have a look for it. I'm sure you can satisfy yourself in there.
Fair enough.
All right, there you have it right there.
I would absolutely, I don't know what I would do if I was living in his shoes.
Freeze, baby, like a deer in headlights.
We did want to ask you on the way out, with the connection to Tyson, how often have you guys trained together?
Right.
How often do you mix it up?
And also, on top of that, it's one thing to be like, hey, I want to train with him. It's another one to be like, I want to carve my own path. How do you navigate that?
Very easily, Tyson's on his own path. Tyson's there. Tyson, in my eyes, is probably the greatest fighter who ever lived. From what he's been through and what he's done to come back and be where he is now. That's inspiration in my eyes. You talk about Anthony Taylor, who's been involved in the Jake Paul build-up. Anthony Taylor's been inspiring Jake Paul. I've been sparring my brother Tyson, who's the best heavyweight in the world. I've been around world-class, top world champions who are also in the gym. I'm surrounded by class. At the end of the day, it just speaks for itself.
All right, well, we got to wrap this up because Tyron Woodley's getting in the ring. Tommy Fury, you're going to open up the pay-per-view on Sunday night, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Cannot wait to see it. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, guys. God bless and take it easy.
There he is. Tommy Fury. Thank you so much. All right, let's go now to our in-ring announcer, Ahmad Crump. He's going to introduce Tyron Woodley.
Went on to successfully defend the UFC title 4 different times. And he compiled an 8-1 record through 2009 to 2012, fighting with Strikeforce MMA on Showtime. Everybody, make some noise. Give a huge Cleveland, Ohio welcome for Tyron, the chosen one, Woodley.
We're back. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, hosts of Morning Combat, here live in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. And there he is, one half of the main event. UFC welterweight champion, getting that title, defeating Robbie Lawler in 2016, defending that crown 4 different times in one of the most difficult divisions in all of mixed martial arts. Here he is, taking on Jake Paul in just a matter of days, BC.
And what's interesting is he's one of the most decorated champions in UFC history. We talked earlier, had some ups and downs with the promotion, maybe didn't always get the push or the love he deserved. That built a callous, that built a one-man against the world attitude. And you have to look at making your pro boxing debut here. He's doing this for himself. He's doing this for a big payday, but he's not here for one big payday. He's here to establish and prove that he can fight with his hands. And it took him a while to certainly craft that in an MMA sense. But this is an entrepreneurial move for him, cashing in on the name value to try to go after something in a sport he thinks he can compete in.
No doubt about it. You can see there in the ring. We saw him earlier with Ivan Baranchik, but he's back again, Pedro Diaz. I was texting with a friend and longtime trainer on the MMA side with Tyron Woodley, Dean Thomas, and I was asking him about, who'd you get him hooked up with? Because Dean was not training him for this fight. He was like Pedro Diaz, and he was walking down the list of why he did it and why obviously Tyron did it. And they're pretty compelling reasons. We've sort of gone over them already because he's such a encyclopedia of boxing knowledge. But also, as I mentioned earlier, BC, Pedro Diaz has experience working with combat sports athletes who are getting into boxing, and he understands what they're about.
Shows you how great of a coach he is, where he can work with somebody like a Rigondeaux or a Miguel Cotto and add to what they're doing, but just on the same regard, can take someone who doesn't have the natural motions or skill sets of a boxer, but has things as a trainer you'd love that Tyron Woodley has. That explosion, that one-punch knockout power, that willingness, still very quick, very athletic. And even though Pedro Diaz, he owns his own gym in Miami, Mundo Boxing, is known much more for the defensive side of it, he can also try to correct some really bad habits that this type of transition could provoke. I would be very interested because you can only gain what you can gain from watching this, watching Tyron hit the mitts right now, watching the staged video from training camp that's come out. Even though you can't live and die on that footage, Tyron's looked really good. Combinations, letting his hands go, pivoting, jabbing, uppercuts. I'd really like to get a chance, and we're going to talk to Tyron Woodley after this public workout, to try to see what is the exact focus of Diaz. What early mistakes can he correct, and what basic foundational things that may be already there in Tyron Woodley's game can they build upon quickly.
And let's also not forget another player who is not here today, who has had a role in the camp of Tyron Woodley, is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather took a shine to Tyron Woodley and has been, as I understand it, we'll get some clarification when Tyron sits with us, but has been a sort of fairly consistent presence in there. Sometimes they're actually in the facility, sometimes not, but as I understand it, has been like very hands-on in a way that even Tyron himself described as somewhat surprising. But if you know Floyd, he doesn't really do anything half-assed. He's sort of an all-in kind of guy.
It's like, can you teach somebody in their first pro camp, and Tyron doesn't have an amateur background. I mean, this is a leap. Can you teach him legitimate things that are applicable to his first fight in such short a period of time? Well, like I just said a minute ago, if you've got this type of athleticism, speed, and power naturally there in the fighter's mindset, that's different than saying, can this YouTuber show us how tough he really is? Now, Jake Paul's been pretty tough. The 3 pro fights and everything we've seen and heard and talking to him, there's a different type of mind up there to be able to be this high of a businessman, to get him to want to get into this game like he has. But Tyron's also got a very strong foundation to build upon for these smart minds like Pedro Diaz, like Floyd Mayweather. Can they teach just little tiny wrinkles to the craft that he can use? It's going to be interesting to see whether Tyron's going to be a boxer, whether he's going to be a counterpuncher, or if and when, probably when, this fight gets hairy, will he just transition and be a brawler? What will this fight look like after the feeling out period, when the first blood is drawn, when the first big bomb is landed? That's going to be high theater.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can say a lot of different things about Tyron Woodley, positively or negatively. You're not going to say he doesn't have power. And you're not going to say, BC, something we should also talk about. This is a guy who's been competing as a sportsman since the single digits. If you go back to his days of wrestling, as you indicated, he was a collegiate All-American, I believe a Big 10 or Big 12 conference champion, teammates, by the way, with Michael Chandler, teammates with Ben Askren, who became an Olympian, and then got into MMA. So we're talking about, he's 40 years old, roughly. For about 30 of that, BC, he's been competing at a pretty, I won't say all of that's been athletically elite, but for 20 of it, elite athletic competition. I don't care what Jake Paul does, and he might win, he cannot replicate that. There is nothing in his background or his arsenal that matches what Tyron has in terms of the value of those decades, literal decades of competitive experience.
How about just this foundational aspect that Jake Paul has yet to have to prove? Can he come back from adversity? Can he get, take a big punch or a knockdown? These are things Tyron Woodley's dealt with. He's fought through being rocked. He's had situations like his first fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in his first title defense, where it was just constant changes of momentum inside Madison Square Garden. Obviously the biggest platform you could possibly have in mixed martial arts. So here's a guy intangibly, like we said, has those foundational aspects.
Sorry about that. We had a bit of a technical glitch, but I think we are back here live in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. You see Tyron Woodley. He'll take on Jake Paul Sunday on pay-per-view. I'm Luke Thomas here with Brian Campbell. And Brian, we were just sort of talking about the mind of Tyron Woodley. Athletic, yes. Power puncher, yes. Smart guy, also.
Doesn't get the credit for his IQ. let's not forget at the peak of his welterweight title reign, which had an underrated amount of defenses, I think underrated amount of quality of names he beat, but it was the manner that he beat them, Luke, something that I can't stop harping on because I don't think enough people did at that point. He had the type of fighter IQ to be able to look at the strengths of his opponents and beat him with that. There has to be some transfer of power in that and getting into the boxing game. Here's a guy who, as you mentioned, is a very, very good MMA analyst on national broadcasts and really seems to understand the science of what this is. How quickly can he transition that power into a boxing sense where you said, okay, no, there won't be the threat of his takedowns anymore like there was in MMA to set up his big right hands. I'm wondering if he can use the big right hand as something that Jake Paul has to avoid to set up the other parts of his boxing game. If he can land something big early and get Jake Paul off of that expected game plan he has coming in, probably going to be jab heavy. He's a bigger fighter than Woodley, both in terms of weight, height, youth. You probably want to come hard, but you want to come up high with that high guard and work that jab. Can Woodley get him out of that early? And then we can see what this work done with Pedro Diaz, done with Floyd Mayweather, what that actually means. We'll see that then.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As you can see, I would say, listen, in his earlier days in fighting, I would say he was a little bit more muscular. But for 40, Tyron looks like he's in good shape. He looks like he took this seriously. Everything I've heard behind the scenes is that he's taking this seriously, and we're waiting for him to join us here.
This fight will be contested, of course, at 190 pounds is the contracted weight. That's right between light heavyweight and cruiserweight in the boxing sense.
Right.
And in the MMA sense, Woodley was the champion at welterweight at 170 pounds in MMA. So, you know, that's 20. That's 20 right there. He's going to have to deal with that.
All right, let's go now to ring announcer Ahmad Crump.
So all the talking, everything is done, all the chips fall this Sunday. What can we expect from you in the big fight at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
You should expect violence. Every round, every second, every punch, violence.
Hey, well, take care of business. Do what you do, champ. Appreciate you. Everybody make some noise. Give it up for the chosen one, Tyron Woodley.
All right, we're now just waiting for Tyron to join us here in the tent.
Very, very quiet response there from
He
from
seems,
the former
you know
champ.
what? He seems dialed in. He seems quite dialed in. And of course, he'll be one half of your main event Sunday, not Saturday, live on pay-per-view.
8 p.m. Eastern is the start. 5-fight main card. But you know we're here for the main event as Tyron Woodley gets closer. No, we're sweating huge here, man. You got
Come on
to
in,
join
Tyron.
us.
Don't worry about that.
Woodley.
There's the microphone for
Team
you.
Wood, the chosen one.
There he is.
You couldn't possibly sweat more than I have in this shirt, Tyron. I mean, let's be honest right here, bro, okay? All right. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, bringing the MMA side, the journalist pumping out there, in there. But we know this isn't a one-off money grab from you. You want to make this transition to boxing. You could have done a lot worse than not only the mentorship with Floyd Mayweather, but I want to hear your work with Pedro Diaz. Why did you choose out him to make this transition into boxing?
I mean, Pedro Diaz, when I first walked in the gym, I was actually in a situation where I had to leave on that Sunday. And they said, man, I think you should stay another day. So I rebooked my flight. I said, let me just give it a try. I'm already in Miami. And I walked in the gym, and he kind of got up on my face like, are you here for the show or are you here for the win? If you're here for the show, I'm not going to train you. If you're here for the win, I'll make sure everything I can do to get you to the win. So I was kind of like, damn. But at the end of the day, that passion and that intensity for victory really made me stay. And I just really had my back shipped, and I've been there since June. I just stayed there, and I was there for 3 months.
When you were competing in MMA, one of the big things you offered an opponent was a dual threat. You could take them down, you could light them on fire with the strikes, and you could mix them, right? You could fake the level change and then come up top. Obviously, that's not really apparent here. Was it really hard to, like, how do I set up my threat striking without any wrestling?
No, you know, you look at a lot of greats like Mike Tyson. He set it up with head motion. He set it with feints and slips. You look at Roy Jones. He set it up with elusiveness. He had very long arms, but he can get to that target quick. And nobody in mixed martial arts could get to a target quicker than me. From here to that camera, nobody can beat me to that punch. So when you start utilizing that feints, level changes, strong jabs, and you start taking away weapons, every time they throw something, you counter it strong. I think my counter ability and my sight and my instincts in there is going to be very surprising to a lot of people for my first pro boxing fight.
7-time world champion Amanda Serrano, who's going to be in Sunday night's co-main event, working out in Public Square here in Cleveland. We're talking to Tyron Woodley. A lot of talk about, the mentorship of Floyd. Can you give us the details of what actually went on? How often did you get to work with him, and what could you have taken to set up for this
Sounds
fight?
like he was hands-on in a way you weren't expecting.
Sure. Even if he wasn't there, me and GT, Gerald Tucker, is his trainer for Logan Paul fight. Also trained Adrian Broner and Gervonta Davis. He was there the entire time, every single run, every single deal. And to be able to have guys like him and Pedro mesh together so well for the cause of victory is a blessing. So the times I worked with Floyd, he was very vocal. You couldn't do nothing wrong, and it makes sense why he's so great. Just the slightest heel turn the wrong way or overdoing it. MMA, we overdo it a lot. We all the time, but it don't always transition into power. Don't always transition into accuracy. But they just basically gave me the foundation, which they didn't have to do. They showed me their base. They showed me the way that they defeat all their opponents in secret. And now, I'm a part of the squad. After this fight, they say you got 2 weeks, and we back to work.
Was it hard to not have Dean Thomas there?
No, Dean Thomas stopped in. He came in for camp.
Oh, he did? Okay.
He didn't stand for the whole time, but he got a lot of stuff going on. I'm very, very happy for my dog. He got a lot of commentating stuff. He got Dana White looking for a fight. He got his own Dean Diaries.
But, you guys are so close, and you worked together for so long.
And I asked him what part he wanted to play. He said, Tyron, I don't want to be a stressor. However you want to have me in this camp. So he made it down for a day. We chopped it up, laughed and joked, and it was a reset button. It was refreshing to see somebody. But to be honest, Gerald Tucker's a lot like Dean. He reminds me so much of like him. Not anything, no matter what. He won't let me leave the studio by myself. He'll stay there and wait until I finish recording, or he'll run every single run, and he run faster than me. So like, coach's pace. I'm like, nah, fuck coach's pace, because you run too damn fast. But he got me in a different mentality. I mean, look, I'm fucking ripped up. I'm like way in weight.
I was gonna say
the way I look. You know what I mean? But I ran.
What is your walking around weight right now?
Man, I was 205 normally. Right now I'm in the 90s. So for me, it's like I've been killing myself to make 170 all these years.
So is this size difference exaggerated by the
very
media
much
narrative?
so? But I waited till this week so he couldn't bitch out. The no bitch out clause.
All right, I got to ask you this. When people learn a new language, they may be speaking in English. Sometimes they're still thinking in Spanish. Is it like that in the transition from the mindset of an MMA fighter to start thinking like a boxer?
I did throw two spinning back fists in sparring, but I couldn't help it. Like I just knew I had the overhand right, and most of the time in the MMA fight I landed. So I threw the overhand right, and the guy was underneath it, and I was like, oh, spin. Oh, man, my bad, dog. But at the end of the day, it's been very easy because I was a wrestler, All-American wrestler. They transitioned very well, but I recognized very early that people wanted to see people get knocked out. So how many times did you really see me wrestle or really see me use my black belt in jiu-jitsu? You really didn't. You saw me utilize a lot of power and the threats.
Just the Darren Till one, really.
Yeah, it was the threats of it. I mean, Darren Till fight, I had to. I ripped my damn thumb out of my entire arm almost, and I was forced to use elbows, which I never had did before. I was forced to get them on the ground. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I feel like for me, the mentality, the discipline is. I told myself, man, I wish I would have did this a long time ago, but it's never too late.
I was going to say, boxing training at the level which you're doing it is not easy. But in terms of the injury load, it does seem like there's a big difference between boxing training and MMA training.
It's a huge change. Like your back and stuff is sore from squatting or doing sled pushes because every trainer wants to show you that they can kick your ass. So people will literally be trying to push you to the maximum strength conditioning, push you to the maximum on sparring, push you to the maximum on grappling. So when you started stretching your legs from being in a rubber guard or some type of open guard or doing jiu-jitsu after you did crazy squats and leg press the day before, and now you got to spar after your arm was in the arm bar and you had to defend out that and your shoulders are burned out, it was counterproductive. And most fighters don't have the resource and income to have a massage therapist, a chiropractor, ice plunge on deck. They don't have those recovery tools at hand. I always had that and I always trained smart, but it was times I would get injured. I can't remember the last fight in MMA I walked into not injured. I just never spoke about it.
You know what's kind of interesting is, in your career, I think it's fair to say, you had a bit of a chip on your shoulder at times, even as champion.
Yeah.
Even right now in this interview, looking at you, dog.
He might.
Right.
But here's the point. With Jake Paul, you've said this out loud. People are coming up to you saying, you got to knock this guy out. You've kind of turned into a bit of a hero here, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching an interview you did a while ago about how we've been kind of bamboozled. And I had a chip on my shoulder because I had to. Because any other way, I wouldn't have been able to compete. Because this is a passion for us. Some people just do it so they can go to the club and tell a girl they're an MMA fighter, but I was passionate about it. So when you're portrayed in a certain way, then you kind of lose the love for it and passion. So then I had to make it personal, and that's where the chip came on. In this situation, it's more, it's like, I know better now. I know better than to take on the pressure and the load of everybody wanting me to see him beat him for them. You know what I mean? I don't have the pressure. I told everybody. I'm telling everybody no, so I can tell everybody I told everybody no. I'm not a fucking ticket master. I'm not on the ticket hunt. I'm not on the, like, you know what I mean? Don't call me this week if I haven't talked to you in three months. Just so you can have the phone next to your homies so you know me. This is a war to me. Like, I'm locked in. That's why I got bandana on. This is gang shit. I'm going out there to hurt this kid.
Oh, wow. All right, I got to ask you this. I gave you your flowers earlier talking. You never got the respect you deserved during your championship reign. Some of that may have been Dana White's lack of a push in certain areas, and I always thought you got the raw end of that. But I think you became so efficient in each of your title defenses that you don't get credit for the IQ in your game
will down
planning.
the road.
How much will you be using that? Considering Jake Paul doesn't have this background as a fighter, how much are you going to be out-thinking him? People just think, okay, he's got a puncher's chance, he may knock Jake out. If not, he's going to lose. How much is this going to be a game plan and a thought process?
Well, I don't get into what people think. Like, when you hear the word think, that's automatically uncertainty. So if I say I think, you guys are experts, you should fucking know. I know. I don't think. I'm an OG to this. So when people start saying, if I say I think, and I try to travel myself into somebody else's brain and think what they're thinking, but what I can do is tell you I've been training my ass off. I'm going to tell you my coaches have been putting me through the wire. When I wanted to quit, when I wanted to slow down, he even made my training partners, my sparring partners run with me. He allowed them to come and break down film of the sparring session without me to make them better. So usually you spar somebody and you get in great shape. The weeks go by, you turn up this kid that you was even with in the first week. Not when you training and you actually preparing your partners as well, building that camaraderie. So now the way you show me love is to fuck me up if I'm my hands down, to press me when I'm trying to wrestle on the ropes. Nah, hitting me in the body. So at the end of the day, you know, I've never have, and I'm blessed to have that mindset. I never really give a fuck what people think and say, because I've always been an ultimate underdog, and I always came out on top.
When you think about the end of your UFC run, how do you look at it? The last 4 fights obviously didn't go your way. You had a championship run before that. When you evaluate it and you say to yourself what went wrong, how do you answer that?
You know, I think I had some choices that I made in life. You know, I got caught up in the lifestyle, and I feel like when I was doing that, you know, I was selling this separate. I can go out here and I can turn up and I can just be, you know what I mean? My personal life was different, and it's not. It's very so much aligned. And I was training my ass off, and nobody could beat me. Nobody really could win around. Like, I was a problem solver. I'm the one that was solving the Rubik's Cube of Wonder Boy, Damian Maya, Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit, you name it, Darren Till.
Yeah,
all these people that people could not beat. They hadn't lost in 7 fights. Damian Maya had taken on people in this 12 fights in a row. I wrote the book for many guys to follow after that. That's why when you said, I don't really need the respect. Down the road, people would document what I did. They would write about it. They would talk about it. They didn't like Muhammad Ali at the moment. Now we love him. We worship him, right? So I never got into this game to be famous. I got into it to be one of the greatest.
Yeah, forget about falling in and out of love with you.
I got that drop. I got that hit.
I'm sorry, he picked it up.
Yeah.
They're saying we got to let you go, so let's close with this. Everyone's saying, who's Jake Paul going to call out? If you know, who's Tyron Woodley? Who's Tyron Woodley going to call out?
Jake Paul ain't going to win. He ain't going to win. I ain't getting no fucking tattoo, and I'm not calling nobody out. I'm calling out the boxing world. I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm fucking sharp. I punch hard. I work hard, and I got the best team behind me.
Does he have to get that tattoo in the ring if he loses?
I don't care what he do. When I made the bet, it wasn't even applied to me from the jump.
Also, I want to say your mom is here.
Mama
might be one of the greatest moms in human history.
I appreciate that.
Right
appreciate
there.
that, man.
Everybody knows it. Tyron, we can't wait to see what happens on
Thank
Sunday
you.
night.
I appreciate
Congratulations
you
on all this, and we look forward to seeing you fight.
Good stuff, buddy. Best of luck.
There he is, Tyron Woodley, former UFC welterweight champion. All right, let's go now to the in-ring announcer. I believe he's got Amanda Serrano there with Ahmad Crump.
So, Amanda, this Sunday, we got Puerto Rico versus Mexico. It's fireworks going to be over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Talk about your emotions and what can we expect from you this Sunday?
Well, you said it there. You have a Puerto Rican champion versus a Mexican champion. it's going to be nothing but a dull night. She's coming to win, but I'm not going to allow her to do that. Those are my belts. I worked really hard for them, and I'm the champion, but I'm going in there as a challenger. So, yeah, I work hard.
Hey, well, welcome to Cleveland. Good luck to you on Sunday. We're glad to have you. Everybody make some noise. Give it up for Amanda Serrano.
There we have it. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell back here in Cleveland, Ohio. We're just moments away from speaking with Amanda Serrano, who will join us here inside of our extraordinarily hot tent.
World titles in 7 different weight classes. She currently holds 2 of 4 belts at featherweight, 126 pounds. Those titles will be at stake in the co-main event of Sunday night's pay-per-view, Luke, when she takes on, I want to get this right, Yamafel Mercado?
No, Yamaleth Mercado.
Yamaleth Mercado. I've been known to butcher a name or two. Mercado, a native of Mexico, found success, 122 in terms of weight, moving up to 126 to take this challenge. Can Amanda continue her journey right now, Luke, which is to become the undisputed champion at 126 pounds, while she continually waits for her opportunity to face Katie Taylor, who holds all 4 titles at 135. You want to talk about one of the biggest fights you can make in women's boxing? That is
This is a big one, and I would also argue here is a case where you want to. Everyone who is inside boxing knows who Amanda Serrano is, but there's a lot of folks who don't, and when the that portion of the audience begins to learn, they can put the kind of pressure on promoters and whoever else to make these kinds of fights.
She deserves to be here. She's
100%.
And she's still, by the way, like in the midst of her absolute prime. And I think that's the interesting part about, fantasy matchmaking for the future. And the champ is right here.
Bushwick is in the house, everybody.
Amanda Serrano, 7-division world champion. You talk about a great platform for Sunday night, co-main event on a Jake Paul pay-per-view. We know how much you've deserved, maybe more than you've gotten, from fans, from journalists, for just recognizing the pound-for-pound greatness that you are one of the greatest of all time. Your record speaks for itself. How big is it now to get to show that on the pay-per-view level on a fight card this large?
It's definitely amazing. We worked so hard for this opportunity, for this great platform, and it's not for me. This is for the sport of women's boxing. We want to showcase that, we deserve this. And I'm not just fighting to defend my titles. I'm fighting to defend the sport of women's boxing. And I promise to all the women out there, I'm going to put on a hell of a show. And I know my opponent is going to do nothing less than that too.
You're the most decorated boxer on this card, right? That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not sure you can find, it's like her and Manny Pacquiao in terms of boxing history and being decorated. So
let me ask you this. Given what you've accomplished, what is the bucket list for you? Is it a certain kind of fight? Is it another title? When you think about what stone you haven't overturned, what is it?
Well, it's definitely to become undisputed champion. Right now it's the undisputed era. I have 3 of the 5, and I definitely want to go for that. Hopefully next fight, I get through this fight healthy and well, and we go for the other champions.
The best part about 5 and followed your career is, you showed that in your last fight against Daniela Bermudez. It was maybe the toughest challenge of your career, and maybe one of your most perfect, well-rounded performances. Is you can outbox a foe, you can walk him down and knock him out. Heck, you'll fight in 8 different weight classes if you had to. But it's going to be Mexico versus Puerto Rico on Sunday night against Mercado, who I'm sure is ready to bite down and have her biggest moment. Does this have war written all over it? How do you sort of look ahead to that?
100% war. When you just say Puerto Rico versus Mexico, then you have champion versus champion. She's younger than me. She's hungry. She has all of Mexico depending on her to get this victory. But I'm Puerto Rican. Yo tengo la sangre de Latina, Boricua. And I'm going out there, and she's going to have to do everything she can possibly to beat me.
Interestingly, you've trained MMA. You've fought MMA as well. So you know what Tyron Woodley has to do in the main event. What's been hard about going back and forth between the training types to get ready for a competitive fight?
Well, MMA is a totally different sport than boxing. I've been doing boxing for 10+ years. And just the mindset of being able to get kicked, to get elbowed, to get kneed, and to be taken down, that's definitely the hardest part for me. I've been so used to be on my feet and stand up. So definitely wrestling, jiu-jitsu, but I've been working hard on those arts as well. So
See, here's what's interesting about this card is there's something for everybody. Tyson Fury's brother's on there. That brings in another clientele. But you've had firsthand experience in Puerto Rico at the Paul brothers camp. You know, you're on all access with them, getting to meet them, train with them. You and I, as a journalist, you as a fighter, are hardcore old school boxing fans. We're not necessarily welcoming the YouTubers in. What can you say, though, about what you learned about who Jake Paul is, the fighter underneath all that?
Listen, I thought the same thing in the beginning. Didn't know if it was just for views, for likes, whatever the case may be. But he's come back, and each opponent is getting better and better. And it was an honor for me to train with him in the gym. And he's a hard worker, just as he's a businessman in his YouTube and his businesses. He's training for real. You know, it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy work that he's doing in the gym. And I'm super honored that he gave me this opportunity to fight on the undercard. He wanted a woman fight on, and I was the chosen one. So I'm truly blessed, and it's too bad that I'm going to steal the show from him, though.
Oh, wow. We got to let the champ go, but I want to close with this. You'll be facing Mercado Sunday night, co-main event, 2 of your featherweight world titles at stake. It's hard to interview you and not bring up Katie Taylor because you guys were almost going to fight.
You knew we were going to ask.
And is that the biggest?
Okay.
Is that the most decorated, biggest fight that can be made in women's boxing right now? How do we get there?
I definitely believe so. Like I said, my goal is definitely to become undisputed champion. I want to become the undisputed champion in my weight class, my natural weight class. And then after that, I go win undisputed champion in another weight class.
Are you trying to be a champion in MMA, or is it just a fun thing to get extra money? Or
No, it's definitely a goal to become champion in MMA and boxing at the same time. Even though it's really, really hard, but I think I'm a hard worker, and I think I can do it. But yeah, I definitely want to become MMA champion.
I mean, I think if anyone can do it, it's got to be you, right?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, well, Amanda Serrano, co-main event. Can't wait to see what happens, and best of luck to you against Mercado. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Have a
There
good
she
night.
is.
Bye.
Bushwick's finest, next to, Bushwick Bill, I suppose. There she is. All right.
There you go.
Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas here live at the workouts for the Woodley and Paul event. We've spoken to everyone except Jake Paul, BC.
Hey,
I think that's all that's left.
Interesting. I want to get inside the mind of Jake Paul, just as Amanda Serrano was illuminating what's it really like in camp when the cameras aren't there, and you get to find out through the sparring, the training, is he the real deal? Jake Paul's shown up to this point. He can draw a big crowd. He can deliver the boom and the knockout. But his goal isn't to become just a pay-per-view brand. He's already that right now, which is incredible that he's only got 4 pro fights and where he's at from the commercial side of it. But he wants to prove all those gatekeepers wrong, the gatekeepers who say, you're not real boxing.
Right.
I mean, the fact that he's dedicated to trying to prove that, and that's the road he's willing to go down and wants to go down, there's a different kind of crazy within him. I want to find out what flavor that crazy is, Luke, because he's got millions of reasons not to do this for a living. You know that.
And also, dude, Tyron came in here, dialed in, right?
Yes.
Did you not notice that he was insanely I've interviewed Tyron Woodley for a decade, and this is one of the few times I've seen him that intense.
And we talk about, in some areas of the overall weight picture in MMA, you can be 10 pounds apart. Bantamweight, featherweight, flyweight, all that stuff. But that leap between welterweight and middleweight in MMA is a 15-pound window. So for him to have had to fight and suck down, and he's always been in great shape, but to make that 170 limit for MMA, we know these are some life or death sometimes weight cuts. I mean, it's an extreme business. How much more energy is he going to have coming in at 190, all muscle, ready to go? That can change. Look at Michael Chiesa in the MMA side of welterweight. How much he's just become a different fighter since moving up. Time and again, we've seen this. But you become more of your natural
Okay, but with
weight.
Michael Chiesa, there's a bit of a difference, though, right? Michael Chiesa, when he went up a weight class, he went, for folks who don't know, he went from 155 to 170. That paid dividends for a lot of different reasons. One, the weight cut was killing him. Okay, fair enough. We know that fighters who come from the wrestling side of things tend to cut a lot more weight than boxers do on average. But it aided the physical needs that he had for wrestling. Just putting on weight, though, because it's more comfortable, doesn't mean it's more athletically advantageous. I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves about Tyron. He looked to be in phenomenal shape. I think early he will be. The question is, by round 6, 7, 8, is that extra weight going to matter?
It's really, though, just centered on the weight cut. Without having to make that cut, will that change him at all? Will he have more stamina than he's ever had? That's the thing. We really don't know about Jake Paul's fight stamina. Forget gym stamina. They're two different things. We don't know if this fight goes to the 6th, 7th, 8th round. what Jake Paul is going to look like, what version. I think we kind of know, unless it's just a crazy war from the start, that Tyron can go 8 rounds. He can go this distance. He's been a 5-round championship level fighter. So those sort of intangibles coming in, maybe they're even in our eyes in power. Maybe, okay, Jake's naturally bigger. Tyron says don't believe that weight disparity. But we know from the standpoint of certain intangibles that you can only get from having been a decorated MMA champion, he does have advantages over Jake that I don't know if everybody's talking about on the same level. Bigger, younger, stronger in Jake. But Tyron's got some of those things that you can't learn in the gym.
Dude, I will say this for Jake. He's got incredible amounts of gumption to want to take on a guy like Tyron Woodley. Yes, okay, you can dismiss him if you want. You know what? How about this? Let's put a pin in this conversation. Let's go to ring announcer Ahmad Crump.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time. He is home, ladies and gentlemen. This man right here has over 60 million social media followers. He is trained by former pro boxing contender BJ Flores. He has knocked out former NBA star Nate Robinson, and you saw him in his last bout. He knocked out former MMA champion Ben Askren in the first round. He has created more buzz in 3 fights than any fighter in the history of boxing, and he's doing it at home. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise and welcome home. Give it up for the problem child, Jake Paul!
Here we are back, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell in downtown Cleveland, and there is the man, BC, that everyone in one level or another has come to see.
The hometown boy makes good and comes home. Got a nice ovation there. 24 years old, Jake Paul. 3-0 with 3 knockouts as a professional fighter. But obviously the big hook in this one and why those betting odds are so close, why we are this excited, is Tyron Woodley represents a danger, a skill level that Jake's 3 opponents haven't yet. But that's to take nothing away. As Ahmad just mentioned over the microphone, have we seen a pro fighter through just 3 pro fights gain this level of attention for his fights? That we've seen pro debuts propped up before on big undercards or on national television. We haven't seen guys 3-0. Headline pay-per-views as the draw in this game.
The A-side.
And, talking to the Paul brothers, the brief times we've had the chance to, man, they're not scared of this platform. They are not scared of this sport. They are not scared of this smoke and the danger that it brings. You have to be wired a certain way to achieve in the areas of entertainment at the financial levels and the subscriber follower levels they have. Luke, I don't know, again, what exact strain of flavor that crazy is, but there's a confidence and a smarts in there. Jake Paul has it. I don't know how you quantify that. I don't know if it means he'll achieve his boxing dreams, but he's not afraid of this moment, and you got to give him a lot of credit for that.
No doubt about it. He's not afraid. But what's interesting about it is it sort of cuts both ways. On the one hand, can we think of a fighter 3 fights in who has generated this kind of buzz and attention for himself? No, not offhand. I cannot think of one. Although, yeah, no, even Lomachenko, but even with 3, it wasn't quite exactly like this. What I will say, though, is the criticism there would be, yes, but when you're that popular, you can engineer your entry into the sport on almost whatever terms you want. That said, what's interesting about Tyron Woodley, which we've been saying all this time, yes, this is something of a hand-picked opponent, if you want to say that for Jake Paul, but there's just a clear escalation of danger and a clear escalation of stakes that he elected on his own to take. And I think for that, if you want to hate on the fight, hate on it. If you want to hate on Jake, hate on it. I don't know that you can necessarily hate on that decision.
No question about it. And I think you have to respect the decision. I mean, both brothers, really. I didn't love the Floyd Mayweather Logan Paul fight from the overall entertainment value and the style of the fight in the end that we thought could happen. But Logan still took on a fight in which he could have been badly embarrassed and one-punched at any point. And Jake is saying, look, I want guys in there that have a chance to knock me out. I want to prove to you how serious I'm taking this game. And like Tyron Woodley, while we praise him for having people like Pedro Diaz and Floyd Mayweather to certain degrees in his corner or in his camp, also like Jake's brother Tommy, I'm sorry, not Tommy, like Jake's brother Logan, they've also sought out professionals. There's BJ Flores right in front of you right
just
there.
About to ask you about BJ.
Cruiserweight title contender in his prime. There's Jay Leon Love, who we saw getting a little verbal dust up with Tyron Woodley in the locker room before Jake's victory over Ben Askren in his third pro fight. They know what they're doing. Jay Leon Love was a Floyd Mayweather promoted fighter, got really close, fought for a world title, was a tough out. They're sparring with John Pascal. They're sparring in Puerto Rico in a professional camp. So they've got every opportunity financially, influentially, to max themselves out and find out what we have here. I think we would both agree that Jake's taking it more serious than Logan, although Logan will be on the broadcast Sunday night, and he's certainly still in play to make big fights. Jake's a little crazier than Logan. Jake's a little more willing to take chances. Those are words from Logan himself, by the way, to describe the difference between them. And, to go in there and look for a knockout against a former world champion in any combat discipline, you got to have that confidence level.
In terms of his overall career, he is asking the world to grade him on a curve. In terms of this particular fight, he is not. Consider, we were there in Miami. Logan Paul basically had no chance against Floyd. The question was, to what extent could you turn in a redeeming offer? And your mileage may vary about to what extent he did. Jake Paul is not doing that. In fact, we talked about it earlier. Go look at your favorite odds maker. They've got Jake Paul as the favorite. Now, not a significant one, but they've got him at about a plus 200, 250, minus 200, minus 250 favorite to win. This is a guy, while, again, we're talking about his fourth fight, you have to understand and take the managed expectations. On the other hand, this isn't, hey, let's see how well I can do against Tyron. No doubt. This is, we got to beat this guy.
Absolutely. And he's responsible for a lot of the attention, as I mentioned earlier, about this boom of crossover celebrity, former retired fighters getting back in the game. And, he's got no problem being the face of that. And I think he has the potential to carry on in the face of that with wins because he's the most aggressive in selling fights from his behavior and activities, and we feel through 3 fights that he's also going in there to go for the knockout, which is key. I can't wait to see where his skills stand up in this test against Woodley, certainly. That's why we're so excited for this fight. But he's also a decent athlete. You talk about the foundational things that he's bringing in. He's a young boy at 24, but a big boy, and he's tough. He can punch. We're going to find out probably in this fight if he can take a punch on the same level he can talk or dish it out. But if the odds are that he can take a punch, Luke, and that he's willing to really do what it takes to win close fights, I'm not trying to tell you have a future title contender, but I am without a doubt telling you got a ticket seller. You got a guy who's going to be comfortable on the pay-per-view level, whether it's against the Tommy Furies, Anderson Silvas, retired ex-boxers, or eventually down the line, somebody who's equal to his skill level within boxing. He's going to have the best chance to get there with all these things we're talking about.
By the way, it's not my imagination. These are the colors of the... by the way, I can't see. These are the colors of the Cleveland Browns. Is that a black shirt or a brown shirt? I can't quite tell.
A lot of brown and orange going on there. These are Cleveland Browns color. He's representing him and his brother, born not too far away from here in their suburban hometown. Cleveland's home. I hope we get some Stipe Miocic, former UFC multiple-time heavyweight champion. I hope we get some sightings of another one of Cleveland's own in terms of combat sports. But like I said, I'm looking forward. He got a great ovation here in Public Square in downtown Cleveland. I'm looking forward to hearing that crowd's reaction to him on Sunday night because he doesn't hide that side of his selling persona. He'll play the fool. If that's the best chance for you to buy a ticket to see the fool, to cheer against the fool, he'll play the fool. He's more than willing.
By the way, speaking of Stipe, if memory serves, this is the first, let's call it major fight, at least in terms of the scale and the audience, since Stipe fought Alistair Overeem. I believe it was CM Punk was on that card as well.
UFC 203.
203, yes. This is the first time that a big fight has been back. Now, were you at that event, the UFC 203 event?
I was at the UFC 201 about 2 months earlier where Tyron Woodley captured the UFC welterweight title from Robbie Lawler, but later that fall, you can argue CM Punk brought a lot of attention, but Stipe got the hometown boy treatment from the loving, adoring fans here.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see relative to Stipe what kind of draw Jake can be. Also, I'll say this. I mean, Jake is going to have not traditional fight fans. Stipe is going to pull more or less traditional fight fans. Jake, I feel like, is going to have a bit of a different cross-section of different groups.
That's why it's hard when people ask me, when I do radio interviews to promote this fight, because we're having such a prominent role in hosting a lot of the events this week, you know, people ask, like, will this be a commercial hit? Will this sell pay-per-view buys? You can't underestimate the size of the audience that the Paul brothers bring, the different chapters of a potential fight fan who are non-traditional without question. It could be the lapsed boxing fans who love a fun fight, and maybe they got hooked in the storyline here. It could also be all those social media influencing fans. For Logan Paul, it was anime fans. It was video game culture fans. For Jake Paul, it's, you know, he's done some Disney acting, done some other things like that. There is a large pool of, you know, I know sons, I got twin 13-year-old sons. Their friends don't think I'm all that cool, Luke. Maybe if they saw me sweating in this shirt, they'd agree.
You're not cool.
They don't care that I get to go interview Conor McGregor, cover the big fights. Oh, they found out I got to fly to Puerto Rico to see with the Paul brothers. That's the coolest thing you can be right now. I use that to gauge because my sons love him to death. They don't give a crap about this fight game unless Jake Paul's in it. So that shows you the potential of impact. Now, is that an audience that buys? Do 12-year-old kids convince their parents to buy? We're gonna find out Sunday night with this one, where you're bringing in the MMA fans, you're bringing in the boxing fans. You are also bringing in. I don't even know. Luke, I'm so old, I don't even know what fans he's bringing in, okay?
Yeah, we're going to have to see. You're right about, like, is this the audience that does the purchasing? I don't know. I will say, though, not only is it Sunday, so it's not really competing with any other fights that might be on Saturday night. It's going to be starting at 8. They're having a bit of an earlier start time for this.
Love it.
I wanted to mention something you talked about, BJ Flores, who, interestingly, a decorated boxer of his own right, also was an ESPN analyst for a time. Tell me about BJ Flores. Tell the audience here. What was he known for? How would you assess him?
He had, from an analyst standpoint, he had his big close-up on NBC Sports. He did that. He was the analyst for that series, and he's done multiple Olympic telecasts, which is a lot of in-depth analyst stuff. But look, as a fighter, he was a cerebral boxer. He was big. He's a good-looking guy. In his younger days, he was much more cut, and you know, he looked like a puncher, but he was much more in a division cruiserweight, which often has big punchers, a smart jabber, a boxer. So you want to talk about a guy who's a not only potential good coach because of that background, but does really good analyst work on NBC Sports. Like I said, the Olympics, this is a guy who understands the transition from amateur to pro and has the grassroots knowledge. Again, just like Woodley and the guy he's associating himself with, you could do so much worse. These are the right minds in camp. Ex-fighters who have had success on the pro level, have fought for world titles like BJ Flores, and obviously Jay Leon Love has. Smart guy in his corner. And I think for Jake, we know that there's some pop there. But it's more important to have guys teaching you the foundational of jab and move and bend at the waist and come up big with the uppercut. He's got to master those fundamentals. It's going to be key at this point.
What did you see when you went to visit Jake and Logan Paul in Puerto Rico?
You know, it could not have been a less glamorous setup. It's a nondescript gym attached to an elementary school, attached to a nursery that is as boxing as you could get. The smell, the posters on the wall, and the lack of air conditioning, and you got to earn it there. And, you know, to see not only the professional coaching like we talked about, and Logan Paul, his coach is the name is jumping out for me. He was a very outgoing fellow. You remember we had him on, we interviewed Logan Paul's coach.
Oh, yes.
He was running the show there, and he's a strong mind in this game. Jake was there with his team. You saw John Pascal, the former light heavyweight world champion, who's training with them. It's a serious training camp. Yeah, Logan or Jake, you know, we'll crack an off joke. We'll ham it up for the camera. But, Luke, I don't need to tell you this, and maybe we'll see it soon when Jake if he takes the shirt off. They're in sick shape. They're young guys. Jake 24, Logan 26. But you would be able to smell it. I spent a lot of BO there, right? A lot of famous fighters have gone through that gym in Puerto Rico. But if this was a joke, you'd sniff it out right away when you're there. It's a professional training camp, and these guys have lived up to the expectations of how they treat it. Luke, when these guys were still doing exhibition bouts in the UK with fellow gamers, what's the one thing I said that was really positive? I said, okay, it's got its audience that's separate from the regular boxing audience, but at the very least, this is not the celebrity boxing we grew up on. Screech from Saved by the Bell or Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. There's a respect for the game and athleticism, a power, a speed. It's Jake Paul right now is as real as he can be in terms of being taken for, as legitimate, because he's lived up to the part expected through 3 pro fights. Maybe not matchmaking level, but now we're transitioning right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this workout. Again, you never want to read hardly, not too much. Almost, I won't say nothing at all. I will say, from what we've been shown, and that's key here, what you've been shown, Woodley looked a little more crisp.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And he's a guy who, maybe pushing 40 years old, maybe coming off 4 straight defeats in the UFC. But as we mentioned earlier, like, some of that was he was in his own head. And he mentioned to us he had his own distractions. He didn't put his best foot forward in those 4 fights. That wasn't maybe a representation of where he was really at in terms of his stock. His career on that side fell apart, and he's going for it and making this transition. But he is still an athletic, knockout threat. And then you mix in all those things we talk about how easy he may have been able to transition during this camp to picking up some of the stuff that Pedro Diaz and Floyd have been training him, teaching him, that he's got the mind for this. So, man, it's getting me more excited about the possibilities. I think when this fight was first announced, I thought, Jake is bigger. I wonder if this is perfect matchmaking. And the more you watch video of Tyron, the more you see him interviewed. That's why the betting odds are where they're at. I don't think it's just a puncher's chance. I think these two are going to go to war on Saturday night. And it may not even come down, Luke, to who's picked up boxing faster. It may just come down to who's going after it and wants it more in that spot. So it's going to...
I'll also say, look at the hat there, just a Disney kid. There's the training component. There's also the... All right, you know what? Put a pin in the conversation. Let's go to Ahmad Crump in the ring.
Kosher, they want some volume. Kosher, they want some volume.
Chilling for sure. Where are we going?
Right here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, perfect. Hey, one more time, everybody, make some noise. Give it up for Jake Paul. Everybody, give it up. Give it up. You know what? Just seeing you when you was younger at the Cavs games, and now you have absolutely taken over the city. You have taken over the boxing world. You're coming home, and you're taking on Tyron Woodley, one of your tough opponents. What can everybody expect from this fight on Sunday?
A movie, a knockout, a historical moment. I'm going to turn him into a meme. That's just going to be all over the internet. So if you want to be a part of it, get the pay-per-view now. I'm telling you, this is Cleveland. Ohio people are the best people. We work for everything we have. And to be able to bring this home, this is surreal. I kept on looking around because I'm just like, how did I get here?
Yeah. You know what? And just, you're fighting in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, where you watched all the Cavs games growing up. 19,000 fans strong. Talk about the emotions that's going to go through your body fighting in front of hometown fans.
You know, I'm just trying to keep the nerves aside. I'm trying to stay focused on the prize. You know, I think after I beat him is when it's all going to hit me. But I can't go into this fight with nerves. You know, I was talking to Stipe, who's also from Cleveland, and when he fought here, he said when he was walking out, he got nervous. You know, all of his friends and family are there. So, you know, I'm trying to keep the nerves on the side. It's not good to fight with adrenaline. It's not good to fight thinking about anything other than the fight. So I'm focused, and afterwards, we're going to turn up with the city.
Jake, you have put on for the city.
Thank you.
Make us proud, everybody. One more time, give it up for Jake Paul. Hey, before we cut out of here, I do want to thank our friends from Public Square. Our friends from Public Square, thank you guys for allowing us to have this event right here. Great host. If you're looking for a great place to have lunch, this is the place where you want to be. If you work downtown, you got to come down here. The atmosphere is absolutely amazing.
All right, we're back. Luke Thomas here with Brian Campbell, just moments away from speaking to the main event man himself, just behind us right here, Jake Paul, problem child. He removed
He's back home. He's coming
most of
home.
the vowels there from problem.
He's back home, 24 years old. I believe what we saw in there, that dance
There
routine,
he
that's
is.
called content creation, Jake Paul, okay?
Content creation.
Great to see you, buddy.
Good to see you guys.
How are you doing, Jake?
We're in the
Nice to
tent.
see you.
We're live. What's going on?
You mentioned that this is kind of just a dream out here, okay? You main eventing pay-per-views 4 fights into your pro career is a dream. What does it mean to like literally be in public square here in Cleveland in a public workout? I mean, you couldn't have thought about that.
I couldn't have thought about this. I couldn't have dreamt it. That's why I was just looking around. I was like, how am I here? This is the city that made me, and to bring this one home, it's the perfect crescendo to my boxing career that's, you know, just starting out. But looking around, seeing friends and family, seeing this beautiful city, I'm just having fun. I'm trying to soak it all in because you don't get moments like this twice in life.
We just had Tyron Woodley in here a little bit earlier. Got to say, and I'm sure you know this already, but it is worth pointing out, looks to be in tremendous shape. Looks like he took this seriously. I'm guessing that's actually what you want, right? Because if you took it seriously and you beat him, what can folks say after that, right?
100%. You know, he said he's training like he's fighting a Mike Tyson. Floyd Mayweather's training him. And you can tell he's in shape. He's got the six-pack back. He's looking good. He's not messing around. You know, this is his biggest fight ever. And the whole MMA community is counting on him to represent them and to get the W. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. And when I beat him, there will be no excuses because he was trained by Floyd Mayweather, because Jorge Masvidal said he was going to knock me out, because he took this camp and had a 14-week camp. He didn't, you know, we didn't give him 8 weeks. We signed the contract 14 weeks out. He has no excuses.
I want to find out something here, Jake, because you've had so much success financially, drawing attention-wise, entertainment-wise. It feels like whatever you and your brother are touching, it's moving mountains. So shout out to you guys in that regard. You'd have to be a special kind of crazy then, and I know you got this question asked a lot when you immediately made the transition to boxing, to take this on. So what kind of crazy are you that this might not be the smartest choice for you at 24 years old to take this on? You can make money in many different avenues. How do you explain doing this and then coming in like I'm a badass? They're yelling for you out here.
Let's go. I love Cleveland, baby. The fans are already lit. This is amazing. But look, man, I love boxing. I fell in love with it. Something about knocking someone out, cracking someone in the face. My whole life has been a fight. You know, I've never got anything handed to me, so I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I was put on this earth to fight, and I like challenges. I'm driven by challenges. And I wanted to be in the NFL when I was a kid. I wanted to be a pro athlete. And so now when my career comes back full circle from, you know, doing all the content, YouTube, Disney, acting stuff, to be able to be an athlete again, I love it. And now this is more than just, you know, fighting. This is about my team, my friends, my family, my purpose to create history. I have the chance to do something that very few humans once a century in this sport get to do. And I'm not going to live that down, and I'm not going to mess up and slip up.
Did you plan to become a fighter pay advocate?
I did not plan, you know.
But you have become one.
Apparently, I'm the advocate for that now. And hey,
it's because every time you do it, someone asks Dana White about it, so then he has to respond to it, and it just repeats itself.
It's a full circle. And look, his fighters can't use their voice. If the UFC fighters talk about how they're not getting paid, they're going to get shelved. They're going to get put to the side. Dana White's not going to put them in fights. So I'm really the only person that has a big platform that is speaking up on it. And when I did, everyone agreed with me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to run with this more because it's something that I do believe in, and I do think it's something that needs change, even for boxers. You know, I made it a point on this card to take less money to make sure that the people on the card were getting the biggest paydays of their career. So I'm not just, you know, saying it out loud. I'm actually taking the actions to try and make a difference because this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And so I think people deserve to get paid.
When you say it's the hardest thing, the training, because my understanding is you run 50% of this whole show, at least for this weekend. Is that managing those affairs what you're talking about, or the trainer, or the combo of the both?
All of the above.
Yeah.
You know, boxing's a 24/7 job. Training for a fight training camp, sleep, eat, recovery, you know, not partying, sober, no distractions, no girls, like that type of stuff. All of it makes it the hardest job. Plus the promotional side of it. I've probably done 75 interviews in the past 3 weeks.
I believe it.
Nonstop.
Never with a guy this sweaty, though, Jay.
Never this sweaty. Never straight after a workout. But hey, you know, there's a first time for everything.
Can I confess something? I was a Jake Paul skeptic for a long time. Total hater. You turned me. And I'll tell you where I turned is when I saw you had the MMA community eating out of your palm when you were trolling them. I could not. Were you surprised at how easily you managed that?
You know, no, that's what I come. The background that I have is trolling, is the internet, is marketing, is twisting things, and using that to flip it back on people. So I understand that game more than anything, and so I knew what I was doing. I knew I was going to piss off the community, put them in my hand, and then be able to do whatever I want with them. But I appreciate you saying that, you know. At first, I do seem arrogant. I do seem, you know, loud, obnoxious. But there's a deeper
method. There's a method.
Exactly. There's a deeper thing to everything. And
you got to tell us what did last question for you. What
to
did Daniel Cormier say to you at that UFC event?
Yeah, he came up to me and was like, "I'm not the one to play with. Don't play with me, man. You better keep your name or my name out of your mouth." And I said, "Wait a second. You spoke about me first. I didn't say anything. You talked about me on your podcast, and then I responded and called you fat. And now you're mad. What are you gonna do? You want to come beat me up?" He said he was going to slap me when he saw me in person. So that's why I took off my glasses, I handed it to my security guard, and I was ready to fight. But he didn't do shit.
But it has to blow you away at how easy it is. You could just almost go through your phone and pick out a name and go, let me see if I can get this guy to want to publicly fight me. Yeah. Is it literally at that point now where you're setting the web and they're falling right into it?
I think so, man. You know, after my brother fought Floyd Mayweather, I realized that anything's possible.
What was the biggest lesson? Is it that he exceeded expectations? What did you take away from that fight when you really thought about it maybe a week or two later?
Yeah, I think he exceeded expectations. My brother fought a good fight. And that maybe people don't want to admit that this is more of a business than it is a sport.
Okay, well, we talked about your ability to troll anyone from your background. You're trolling MMA, media, fighters, fans, everything. What about the boxing hardcores? Is your mindset set on, I want to win over the boxing hardcores and show you that I'm one of you? Or is part of you still being like, it's kind of a troll job to be main eventing a Showtime pay-per-view and have my own deal? That's a little bit of a troll job.
Yeah, look, I would love the boxing community to fully embrace me. I think a lot of people have already, but now it's the boxing purists who maybe fully don't understand exactly what I'm doing. So I would love that respect. And like I said, all I'm trying to do is have boxing become one of the top two sports. I want to take over the NBA. I want to take over the NFL. I want to take over MMA because MMA took over boxing for a long period of time. And I believe that with the lightweight division, you know, the Garcias, Haney, Gervonta, the heavyweight division, all the fights that are about to happen, and then add in me and my brother and some of the YouTube creators that are boxing, we can make this sport go number one. And that's all I'm here to do.
He's Robin Hood, basically. All right, he's giving MMA fighters their biggest paydays. He's trying to put boxing back in the headlines. What you know?
I don't know. We asked your brother, we did this in Miami with him, why he didn't do MMA, because we knew he wrestled at a pretty decent level in high school. Was MMA never a thing for you? Was it because of the structure? Like, how did boxing end up being the one that you got into?
You know, it's weird. It sort of came about when people were talking smack online, and we were like, let's just settle this in the boxing ring. It just seemed like the thing that made the most amount of sense. And when I put on the gloves and started sparring, I was like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. And that's really where the love came from.
Speaking of love,
hold on, I got to get this in. I got to get this in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have I seen footage of you in your? I think it was your old LA mansion. I could be wrong about that. Beating up AJ Agazarm. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. How many MMA fighters? And of course, he's from jiu-jitsu more famously and whatnot, and has moonlighted in MMA. How many MMA fighters has that repeated itself for in training?
A lot, and nothing against MMA fighters. I respect MMA fighters. You know, if I go into an MMA fight, they're going to tie me up and choke me out. AJ Agarzam, we did an MMA little mess around, and he choked me out. Okay, cool, you got me, bro. But in sparring boxing, that's my territory. You're coming where I'm going. And it's different. Boxers are a little bit more efficient with striking. They add up the numbers. They have the head movement. And so it's a different thing, and I've taken out a lot of MMA fighters in sparring. But, you know, it's just the name of the game. It's like a fish out of water. It's comparing apples to oranges.
Tyron Woodley is obviously the toughest test of your career, and we respect you for taking that on. But we did see Tommy Fury in this chair, and he's really good looking.
Kid.
We got to give it to him, Jake. Okay, I don't know if
he's good looking. Really good looking.
He wants to fight you, and I think it's natural that people are going to go, okay, if Jake gets past this test, is it Anderson Silva, the big fish? Is it Conor McGregor? What about Tommy Fury? I mean, he's got to be on this card for a reason.
Yeah, look, it makes sense. You know, that's a huge fight, and it seems to be right in the palm of both of our hands. We do have to go out and perform on Sunday. And, you know, I want to see how the U.S. crowd receives him. I want to see if he has that star power this whole entire week. You know, he doesn't have the big pay-per-view numbers like Tyron Woodley has, or even a Ben Askren. Those guys sold tons of pay-per-views. Tommy Fury, no one's seen a Tommy Fury fight. Maybe the highlights.
He is big in the UK in his defense.
However, I still don't think they've actually tuned in to watch his fights. Like, when you look at his pay-per-view numbers, it doesn't live up to it. So when you're making a fight with Jake Paul, it has to make sense from lots of things: height, weight, experience, pay-per-view buys, notoriety, the ability to sell a fight, and the timing of it. Some of these guys that I want to fight right now, you know, Masvidal is talking smack. Okay, he's saying that Woodley's going to knock me out. After I knock out Woodley, I would love to fight Masvidal. That's a bigger fight than Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. But will Dana White let him out of his contract? Kamaru Usman, will Dana White let him out of his contract? Some of these guys are tied up. Some of them don't make sense. Some of them, when it comes to signing the dotted line, they don't actually want to do it.
Has Dana White ever DM'd you?
He hasn't.
No?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, speaking of winning over, Dana, whenever we talk about your potential future opponents, you ask any fan, journalist, or expert, they're going to say it's all going to be, half the list is going to be UFC guys. So do you envision one day that you're going to get so big that, like when Dana White got on board with Conor boxing Floyd Mayweather, Showtime pay-per-view was a giant ordeal, everybody made money on it. Do you see Dana eventually relenting if you keep proving that you're for real?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you'll have to. And at the end of the day, he's a businessman who has to look at his P&Ls, look at the bottom line and see, look, this is where we're not making money, this is where we are making money. We need more promotion. I want this fighter to be promoted. Maybe we have to do the Jake Paul fight. I'm only 24, you know?
Jake, we have to wrap. So why don't you, if you want to say anything to the camera, to the fans, to anybody else, you get the last word on the whole broadcast.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sunday, August 29th, get the pay-per-view. And if you're in Cleveland, come out to the show. I love you guys. Thank you all for the support, and I'm about to get this knockout. You already know it.
There is Jake Paul, Brian Campbell. I'm Luke Thomas. We are live no more in Cleveland, Ohio, but we'll see you tomorrow for the press conference. Until then, we'll see y'all later.
He's just going to burn alive. It's going to be embarrassing as fuck.
I think Jake, some of his antics, I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's a mental warfare because you got to recognize how much experience I have. I got to keep reminding myself he's a child, that, you know, he's doing things that somebody his age should be doing.
I think with every fight, my confidence grows and grows and grows. Beating Ben Askren, I was just like, damn, like I can really punch someone.
Jake is nervous about this fight. You know, he's nervous in the face-offs. He said, I see fear in this. You haven't had enough face-offs to see fear. I've looked at somebody and I've seen fear, and I knew it was going to be over with in the first round. You can't say in 2.5 fights that you've done that.
I'm naturally talented, gifted, naturally athletic, naturally powerful. I'm also just a really fucking hard worker, and I show up every single day, do every single thing right. That's what has made me a real sharp fighter. If we have to go 8 hard rounds, I'm ready.